To go in the opening quarter. Sanders pressured off for the fake and throws another interception. Mac Jones picked it off.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Lefty from Australia, second oldest player in college football, kicks it back there, and that punt is blocked, and Oklahoma State falls right at the 5-yard line. Gray gives a huge gift to Oklahoma State.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Jerome Ford, big scene. Jerome Ford is revving and tearing it up. Touchdown, Cincinnati, 79 yards.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Altmaier steps up, drives the ball, and it is intercepted. J.T. Woods again. That is his second of the night.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, hello. As we wind down another week of college football crazy, the landscape, of course, is always changing. If not, just wait a little bit. It's right now, everything's just kind of simmering. You make a nice pot of whatever it might be. It could be gumbo or jambalaya or, Paul, your incredible spaghetti in meatballs. Whatever it might be, it's simmering. We will today discuss college football. There's our good freight friends from Marco's Pizza. Appreciate that. Bob Mock and company from Marco's Pizza. You can go to marcos.com. Pizza lovers, get it. Thank you very much, man. You should have gotten your tip in the... Okay, good. So Chuck Neinas, who is he? He's the one that helped negotiate the very first ever, really kind of the college football TV deal that unleashed college football into the big-time money with Georgia and Oklahoma in a lawsuit. They won. He also was a longtime commissioner of the Big 8. He then came into the Big 12 after they were falling apart, and they have had their turmoil, and basically saved the day. This was after Nebraska, Colorado, then I think A&M and Missouri were right around the corner as well. He's going to join us. I did interview him. I recorded it. Chuck Neinas is in his 90s, and he sounds like he's 35. He's still sharp as a tack. We'll have that today at 4 o'clock. All right, let's get into a couple of things. I want to get into eventually a ceremony that I was at today at McLean Stadium with the U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company. We'll get to that with Captain Dominique Williams and then now Captain Kai Kizzy and how they replaced as commanders in the switch-off. It's so great to watch something like that military. We will get into also Jeremy Pruitt, Tennessee. They've had some allegations that are pretty hefty. But what do you want to do here first, Paul, Craig, Mack Rhoades?
Yeah, let's talk about Mack.
No, I want to do this first. Let's do the SEC media poll first, okay? Garrett, you have that. This is an image from their website, from the Twitter feed. This is the SEC media predictions. We had one of those, of course, in Arlington. No surprise, the top picks are Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky right below Georgia, and then A&M at number 2, and then everyone else according to what was the voting. Here is the breakdown of the votes. Georgia heavily picked to win the East, and Alabama massive. Like, think about Alabama, 177 of 181 votes for them to win, and of course Georgia's right there at 172. Now the votes for the SEC champion, Alabama, dominant vote. South Carolina, Spencer Rattler have something to do with that one, Beamer. And then Vanderbilt gets a vote, and so does Texas A&M.
Man, somebody's really likes Clark Lee or just decided to be a troll there because
that's definitely trolling.
Yeah,
that's definitely trolling.
And there might be 3 on South Carolina. Look, Spencer Rattler is better than, probably more talented than any quarterback they've had in a long, long time at South Carolina. And Shane Beamer is an exciting young new coach, but that's 2 teams in there that have never won a conference title ever. And then Texas A&M is in there, and they've not won the SEC title. Now they've won conference titles in other conferences that they've been in the Southwest Conference.
When
and
was
won in
their
the
last Big 12 title?
1998.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time.
You wouldn't think so by the way they talk sometimes, man. Golly, it's 1998, but you would not have thought that based on the conversations over the years.
Yeah, no, Dat Win was on the team, back then.
He's retired and owns a bunch of Chick-fil-A franchises now. I mean, that's how long that's been.
Yeah, so it's a bit different. So they've got a long time. So it's surprising to me to see anybody on that list who's never won the SEC before. Now I get that A&M is on the climb and on the rise, and they've got a coach who's won a national title before and conference titles before, at his previous stop. So that stands to reason. But I mean, come on. 3 for South Carolina, 1 for Vanderbilt. That's
I picture some Vandy beat writer. I don't know, maybe a dude fresh or still in college, just like, see what I did? I'm that guy. Like that's the only thing I can imagine because I can't imagine somebody straight faced actually doing that. That has to be bait. Well, I don't know when their votes were supposed to be in, so I'm not sure if that was before the comments about ultimately being the best team that everybody laughed at, or if that was prior to it. But yeah, I'm not putting much stock in that one vote. The South Carolina thing, I mean, I think Shane Beamer's got some positivity flowing through there. I'm not ready, especially in that East right now, to put anybody over Georgia. I just don't think that makes any sense. But Spencer Rattler is one of those guys that I am very curious to see play this year because he has flown under the radar. I mean, compared to the way he was being talked about even a year ago, right? I mean, he was at one point in time that super 5-star recruit that was on a Netflix show that I remember my little sister hated Spencer Rattler before he ever played for OU because she watched him on Netflix and thought he was the cockiest SOB she'd ever seen. And she hated him. And that just made her more frustrated watching Oklahoma whenever he'd make mistakes. See, I told you he sucks or whatever, but kid's got an immense amount of talent, or a young man's got an immense amount of talent. He's got a head coach that he's comfortable with in Shane Beamer. He's got some toys, and I'm just really fascinated to see what they do. If they were in another conference, I think they'd be talked about more, but the fact they're in the SEC kind of dampens expectations right from the outset.
If they're in the ACC,
I
would say, I mean, Spencer Rattler can come in there and make a huge difference in a conference that's not as talent-heavy as the SEC is. And, lest we forget, Spencer Rattler ended 2020 on a point where people thought, like, crap, this kid is really going to be something. And then, for whatever reason, and he wasn't. He's such a conundrum because he wasn't terrible. He just wasn't. He was like stuck in neutral.
Yeah. And there's also a kid named Caleb Williams.
Yeah, behind him. Yeah, behind
who
him.
came in a massively watched game.
Yep.
And
made incredible
became a
plays.
Superstar.
Yeah, I mean the Texas game. He came in during the Texas game. Spencer Rattler looked like he was a deer in the headlights and looked anything but a 5-star. And Caleb Williams comes in there when they needed it the most. And Riley just says, screw it. I mean, if they didn't put Caleb Williams in at that point when they did, or if they had not at all, I mean, what does that final score look like? Because, I mean, he was a miracle man with what he came in and did. And so, the star was born with Caleb Williams. And, Rattler didn't disappear ultimately right then, but he faded away for sure. And the future in Norman faded away pretty quickly. But then Caleb Williams did as well. And that's where they are without either one of those guys. It's just kind of weird how that goes. But, I'm really curious to see Rattler, especially being in a place where, again, he's got some comfortable pieces around him. And he's been able to fly under the radar a little bit. I mean, you think about it, he's been talked about and whatnot, but it's not like if he was the Oklahoma quarterback when he was being talked about. So I think that bodes well for him. Now, the other part of that I want to ask, Paul, you're the A&M fan, and I don't mean this disrespectfully. I mean this because I'm very curious. But what is the climb for A&M? Because the last few years, 8 wins, 9 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins, 8 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins. I mean, they are not climbing or falling. They are in the exact same spot for the last 10 years.
I guess I should have said they feel like they're on the climb.
Right, but I want to ask why. Like, why is this year going to be the year? Because we've been hearing about the building now for a while. Like, we heard it. Like, someone got some things going, and then all of a sudden that just fell apart real quickly. And then the big money hire with Jimbo, and they've been good. But just like, 3 bowl wins in a row, winning, an Orange Bowl. I mean, that's huge. But like, where does it? Not an Orange Bowl, but what bowl game were they in last year?
Were they the Citrus last year?
Citrus, okay,
something like that.
I guess. All right. So Orange Bowl a couple years back. What is the expectation? Is it 8 or 9 wins going to be? Yeah, it was still the same record, but we won this game. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I think they feel that the confluence of events is happening now because they beat Alabama last year, which they'd done once before, but they beat Alabama without a
withdrew from the Gator. Is that what it was?
From the Gator, yeah.
That's right.
So they beat Alabama last year with Zach Calzada at quarterback. So it wasn't the first time they beat Alabama with a generational talent college football superstar in Johnny Manziel. Mm-hmm. So I think that kind of emboldens them to say, okay, well, everything around the quarterback has gotten better now. The recruiting is better than it's ever been, numbers-wise. And the guy who is doing that actually has some skins on the wall as a coordinator and a head coach when it comes to actually doing that. It's not this is Jimbo's, 4th year right now? So his 3rd year at Florida State, his 4th year at Florida State was fifth year. So his 3rd, 4th year at FSU was when they really got going, and he also didn't have to rebuild that out of nothing. That was Florida State was.
Let's get to what his question is.
So I think it's the confluence of those events. That's why they think that this is the time, but I would caution them against that. Alabama hasn't slipped far back enough to where you can maybe go beat Alabama again. Maybe you'll do it this year. Maybe you beat them 2 times in a row because you've got some talent maybe equally stacked across the board at some key positions. But Alabama also has to lose again relatively for you to be comfortable, and then you also can't lose. You can't lose a dud again.
You can't lose to Mississippi State. You can't lose to somebody else.
So it's 2012 is when they beat Alabama, right?
Yeah,
with Johnny Manziel.
Yep.
So they won 11 games that year. And this is not a knock on A&M. This is me trying to figure out, because every year there's hype, and they just got this number 1 recruiting class, and I'm just asking, when's the leap? And I know that the leap has been stopped or blocked by – we got to play Alabama, we got to play Auburn, we got to play LSU, and I know they've ran into some monstrous all-timer teams during that point during that stretch. But at some point, don't you have to get over that hump?
Like Michigan,
you have to,
last year with Michigan,
right? So since Johnny, 9-4, 8-5, 8-5, 8-5, 7-6, 9-4, 8-5, 9-1 COVID year, 8-4. I mean, that is as not 500. That is as steady as it gets. I mean, that's pretty much not wavering one way or the other off of that 8-win mark, save for a little blip here and there. That's what I'm just curious about is when do they get over that hump, and when are they so prepared and ready enough? Does this number 1 all-time recruiting class need a couple years? You know what I'm saying? Because every year it's there's a little something. So what is it this year that is needed?
Well,
in their way?
They need to win, and not just win a big game. They need to win the ones they're supposed to win. But go back to that poll again. Now think about this. This came while you were discussing this, both of you. I want you to go back to this poll. The SEC is a very powerful conference, correct? Mm-hmm. They have 2 incredibly good teams that have won national championships, Alabama, a chunk of them. And then there's been others along the way, whether it's LSU or Auburn, or Florida. But think about this. If it's such a great league, yet 349 votes out of whatever combined crush everybody.
Yeah.
Now, A&M's not that far really behind, but look at the overall first place votes. 177-3. Where is the upper depth?
I mean, it's there. I think it's the fact that it's just 2 very obvious top pieces. Yeah. I mean, and that's why I get some of what A&M's frustrations are, is that they do have these juggernauts like an Alabama and a Georgia, and their schedule's tough, but so's Alabama's schedule. So That's what I'm saying is like, what do you need to be Alabama to knock them off their perch?
You have to win the division. You need to win,
right?
Whether
so
you beat them or not, win a division.
I know how you technically on paper do it, but I'm saying, how do they then do that and do that and translate that to paper?
The biggest thing is, and look, and even if they go and lose to Alabama, that's just one loss. If Alabama finds a way to lose 2, but you can't lose 2. You have to lose
can't lose
one.
to Mississippi State.
Yeah,
and,
you can't. Like last year, okay, Arkansas was a surprisingly good team, and they had a long streak against Arkansas that had to come to an end eventually. So that kind of okay. You can't lose to a Mississippi State team that's just okay, and you can't lose to LSU after they fired their coach. Yeah. Now you can lose to Arkansas and Ole Miss. All right, those are pretty darn good teams, but you can't lose. If you're an elite team, you don't lose to middle of the road or teams that fire their coach.
Yeah, no, the next step for them is to actually win the division, and that means you have to beat the team that is stranglehold on college football for a decade.
Or win 10 games.
Or go
in the regular
or get
season
in the playoff
as
as another representative in the SEC, and you hope that maybe Georgia's down a notch so that you get that spot. Remember, in the COVID year, they were 9-1. They were really good. But they got blocked out there that year. All right, so that's the SEC media poll. It's a great question, and I'm sure, quite frankly, that A&M and all the above, that's the question you ask all the time. It's like Michigan. And not that they were elite consistently, but they were good, and then every time you thought they were pretty good, they'd get smoked by Ohio State.
And look,
finally
I can
beat the Buckeyes.
I can tell you, looking at A&M's schedule right now, they can go. There's 3 games they're probably going to win. But if South Carolina's better, and they already lost to Mississippi State last year, the rest of their schedule is tough.
It's you're right.
Miami's going to be fun. I mean, we'll see early on. That'll be an interesting game.
So there's some great, and you always get kind of a barometer with. I love them. The early, really intense, highly rated teams that meet each other in non-conference in the month of September.
You do? Well, that's going to go away soon, according to the Super Conference
Or it's going to
experts.
be like that every week.
It's going to be like that every week, so there's not really anything special about it because it's just the same thing.
Yes, speaking of that. So it's college football's realignment, the landscape, whatever, simmering. We are in an instant gratification society. And so everyone wants to know now what's happening with the Big 12 or the Pac-12 or the whatever. And it doesn't always work that way. But there was the next explosion, which was USC and UCLA. A couple of different notes here. I want to switch on what we're going to do. I want to go to Bill Hancock. Bill Hancock joined us when we were at Big 12 Media Days. This is not for those, maybe it is, for those who are a part or fan bases of the conferences and or teams that are the blue bloods and elite or protected. You still have to be a college football fan that you want maybe something different than sometimes is discussed in the Super 2, whatever it might be. But here is Bill Hancock, who was down with us in Arlington, executive director of the College Football Playoff.
Wildly different is college football in 4 years, in your mind?
Oh, my goodness. Who knows?
Yeah.
I know this, though. There will still be the passion we have today. The Baylor fans are still going to be going to that lovely stadium, that awesome stadium. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh, my goodness. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That won't diminish. We'll still have the passion. That's what separates college football from every other sport, is the volume of passion of the fans.
Will that continue if there becomes just a higher level of who can play for the national championship? Do you think that passion can be lost?
Yeah, no, it won't. It won't. Not at our level. It won't.
All right, so that's it. That was the last part of the interview. I still wish I had gone back and said, what the hell did you just say? And I didn't, and neither did Craig, and we've discussed this. He is, as Paul, you put it, he's a lobbyist, executive director, to pump up the college football playoff. He wants whatever's good for him in the college football playoff, money, whatever. But that right there is also what everyone else that's not a part of so-called Super 2 or whatever happens is fighting that attitude.
Yeah, and he could possibly not be lying. That's the thing about people like him in powerful positions is they can say something and not technically be lying because what is his level in his brain as he hears that question? Their level might be whatever that future level is, and so in his mind, yeah, they're not losing anything because they're going to have this level that he's talking about, whereas we're talking about the grand scope of college football. That's the one thing I think of when I hear that, where he's technically saying the truth, even though it's not the truth we were asking about.
It's the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, exactly.
And lobbyists in whatever they lobby for, and if you are a lobbyist and watching this, I'm sorry if you get insulted, but this is a blanket statement that holds to be pretty true. If you go in to be a lobbyist, your job is not to have your opinion. Now, you might share the opinion of your lobby, but your job as a lobbyist is to pump the opinion of whatever your lobby is, whether it's the college football powers that be, like Bill Hancock does, tobacco, broccoli, medicine, whatever. Your job is to go lobby people, whether it be politicians, school presidents, voters, whatever it is, that be to your side by saying those things. So when Bill Hancock says that, all due respect to him, but as a lobbyist, his job is not to be Bill Hancock, independent thinker. His job is Bill Hancock, voice of the machine.
Yep.
And the machine is telling...
And you know what he's also doing? He's relaying that, right?
Yes. So his voice of the machine is telling you, it does not matter what happens to college football. You will watch it. There will still be passion. You will just re-energize it into what we tell you to re-energize it into. We are the machine, and our word is final.
You are a drone or the sheep to what we tell you should be.
Yeah. So
there's just not enough of you that we're worried about leaving that it's going to really affect the 15 million that watch Ohio State on a regular basis.
All right, let's run that again. This is Bill Hancock, the executive director. We probably should have done much more with this when we did. We had an incredibly crowded schedule when we were in Arlington at Big 12 Media Days.
I just have to mention this for posterity's sake, but because I know most people at this point don't care about pro wrestling, but Vince McMahon just tweeted out 15 minutes ago that he's retiring. He's in the midst of a scandalous investigation.
Yeah,
I have to mention that as it's happening, just for my own sanity.
Time for me to retire. Thank you.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, back to
Bill
the clip.
Hancock yet again.
Wildly different as college football in 4 years in your mind.
Oh, my goodness. Who knows?
Yeah.
I know this, though. There will still be the passion we have today. The Baylor fans are still going to be going to that lovely stadium, that awesome stadium. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh, my goodness. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That won't diminish. We'll still have the passion. That's what separates college football from every other sport is the volume of passion of the fans.
Will that continue if there becomes just a higher level of who can play for the national championship? Do you think that passion can be lost?
Yeah, no, it won't. It won't. Not at our level. It won't.
All right, so if you are not Big Ten, SEC, or you're not maybe 8 or 12 others, you agree with that? Will you go to the games as passionately as you? I know there's Division III, Division II, the NAIA, whatever. Well, I don't even know if that's even alive anymore, but JUCO, whatever. Will you? Well, I don't know. I mean, it's hard sometimes for stadiums with teams that are incredibly good right now that are not a part of that to fill them.
There's a bunch of people that live on that campus that don't feel like it's worth walking 5 minutes to go watch the Big 12 champs play. So, if they're not even competing for Big 12 titles and they're playing, Stephen F. Austin, sorry to say, because, my parents went there, but yeah, you're going to get a bunch of casuals who do not give a damn about. I mean, that's the thing is college football's got its diehards and it's got its passionate fans, and there's a lot of them. But it's also got a incredible amount of casuals, that are just students there at the time, and so they go to the student section and they cheer and they do what they're supposed to do, and you hope that they get that passion ingrained in them, and then they grow into that next wave of fans. But yeah, that's I don't know.
Well, I would ask Bill Hancock these 3 questions. Okay, if college football fandom is a valve that flows at the same ridiculous level no matter where you are or what's going on, then why do teams get more fans and more excited when they're doing well? If the faucet runs at the same speed all the time, it should not matter how good or bad you can do it. And that's with teams having a chance. Look, we're making jokes about Vanderbilt getting a vote in the poll, but Vanderbilt has a chance, right? So Vanderbilt could. Maybe this guy is onto something and Vanderbilt has this secret roster of super studs that we've never heard of and wins the national championship this year. Guess what's going to happen around Vanderbilt football, who's never even won a conference championship? People will get more excited than they are now.
There will be a facilities announcement.
Exactly.
There will be, new ticket package. Yeah.
So now let's go ahead and take away, because look at good teams that, or teams who were good in a bygone era that aren't anymore. Look at their attendance. Is the passion still there when you fired 3 coaches in a row? No, there's not. the attendance isn't still there, it dips. So again, the passion is not an ever-flowing thing. The other thing is, if you do have the most passionate fan base, and that is one thing I do agree with it, college football fans are passionate. They've been asking you one question for a long time, dude, and you will not abide a passionate fan base because you're also telling it, we don't care what you think. We know what's better for you.
All right, good stuff on the table early on today. Emery and Levi and Garrett behind the scenes even before the show, helping to set some of this up. Garrett, not Mack Rhoades. I'm going to show this it's a very small thing, but just for those at McLean Stadium where the berm is, just a note, I was there today. I don't even know why the audio's but there is the berm behind this. It used to be a bunch of hedges, a bunch of plants or whatever, right? Bushes. Yeah, it's not like, what's this great school with the hedges? Georgia, yeah. So the berm is where they sell a certain amount of tickets, and sometimes that thing can be packed, and there's always the debate about whether they should sell tickets to certain people, and I'll let all the message boards worry about that. But those were bushes, and they are building kind of a wall right there. I don't know what they're going to do maybe in front of that, but I happened to be at a ceremony today at the President's Suite at McLean Stadium that we'll get into in a moment. And I saw that. So I seen maybe that mentioned in the message board, Sikkim365.com, but I was actually there, so I took video.
I definitely saw this from somebody else on Twitter yesterday from farther away. It was like the other side of the stadium. They had a picture of it. That's far more up close. But, yeah, I'm curious. I mean, this is – if you listen to Mack Rhoades, the last time I believe that he was on, or maybe not this week, but before like the 3-week break that he went on with his segment, either the last one that he had done before the break or the one right before that, I believe he had mentioned, because somebody asked a question about the South End Zone project. That's what this is.
Yeah. No, exactly.
You had somebody ask about the South End Zone, and that's what that is. And they were saying, it's funny how somebody mentioned the South End Zone project they heard a rumor about. It was like shade covering and all this, and basically what it's now is whatever they're doing with this.
Yeah,
so I don't know if that's going to be shade covering. I don't see how that would be, but yeah, I'm curious to see what they do put there. But yeah, got about a month to figure that, or get a month to finalize that.
It is on the chat room today. This is a good one from Chad Masters. It's Joanna Gaines installing shiplap.
Yeah, very well could be. They need to really lean into that Magnolia factor here in Waco. You talk about future distribution. I mean, hey, Magnolia's under that Time Warner banner, got their own channel. Want to get some Baylor football in there, right? Squeezed in between your shows about home building and all that.
We have Grayson Grundhoefer, 345. Chuck Neinas will join us. His thoughts about the current landscape of college football. He's been around for years and years. At 4:05, Sean Keller, he's a columnist for the Denver Post on a column he wrote about Colorado. You need to be very aware of what's in front of you and what maybe is an opportunity for you when it comes to the possibility of what they do. And then Paul's top 5 as well. On the set today, you can't see it. It's off to the right behind Craig. Craig, lean over for just a second. The other way. There we go. Either way. Brigham Young is now in the house. We love what they've done. We have tremendous access. Brett Pine and all of them. And somebody sent us a hat. I mean, not just a mini helmet, but the dude. And he even's got the cool visor. Baylor plays at Brigham Young in Provo in September. Hosted them last year. It was a great atmosphere. So thank you to Brigham Young. And the helmet arrived. I thought it was going to be a mini helmet. It's one we could put on right now and go play as well. All right, so that's that. Now, let's break here and come back with Mack Rhoades at the end of Tuesday's interview with us. A couple of things about what is happening, simmering, boiling, imminent, etc. And also with what we asked Bill Hancock, can he ever see a day where the Big 12 teams and or his university, Baylor, could ever be in a position where they can't compete for the national titles at the highest level? We'll do that and much more. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. I tell you what, IdealMRI.com is a place that I endorse, not just because they ask us to do that and they're a title sponsor of this show, but because I've been inside their state-of-the-art technology MRI machine. For my left shoulder, for my abdomen, and they find out something that perhaps is hurting you, a muscle, a ligament, something that is painful. You don't sleep well. You can't really even go about your day. Rob Maxey, Dr. Rob Maxey and his staff have done something special. They have found a way with a state-of-the-art technology MRI machine to help you save hundreds of dollars. I've told you the story about the woman that had to get an MRI and it was going to be on her knee, and she was told she needed to use the hospital she was at or the system she was a part of. $1,600 after the insurance deduction. She called Ideal MRI, and thank God she did. $497 or less every single time. That's what they do. Your MRI is read by people who are professionals. Your MRI is $497 or less. Your MRI is as good as any MRI you can get anywhere else inside the Central Texas Marketplace in Waco at idealmri.com. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, the new 2022 Impressive Wagoneer Series 2 and 3 have 2.9% for 72 months, plus 4,500 competitive bonus cash going on now. That's right, and 4,500 bonus cash. This incentive on the new 2022 Wagoneers for a limited time only at Allen Samuels in Waco. First responders get 500 extra cash. Come shop the new car and truck inventory today at Allen Samuels Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here They're used to lights. They're used to water in their mouth. They're used to experience. They already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
Good afternoon, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Thanks to all of you watching right now on YouTube. We started about 30 plus minutes ago and a lot of things to get to. And now here's another one. So on Tuesday, Mack Rhoades joined us for the first time, really, it's since before USC-UCLA. And questions about a lot of what's going on. Of course, he could only say so much. And he said he didn't see anything that's imminent. Now, I don't know. That doesn't know. Who knows? So here's a question for Mack Rhoades, his answer, and then a follow-up for a lot of you who are fans of schools that you are a little bit worried about whether you'll be invited and be able to have hope to win a national championship down the road. Earlier, you said nothing is imminent. What's your definition of imminent?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I can't tell you for sure if, you know, Big 12 is going to remain at 12. And again, when I say 12, you know, I'm talking about obviously beyond Texas and Oklahoma once they leave, or whether or not, you know, we add and, you know, go from 12 to 14 to 16 to whatever that number is. And I think that's still, you know, a work in progress and you know, exploration and, you know, and look, there's a lot on the plate of Brett and the Big 12. I mean, certainly there's the conference membership piece, but it's all the other things too that he talked to you about in terms of generating revenue. Mm-hmm. You know, those are all things when he talks about being open for business, it, you know, right away people go just to the conference membership piece, but it's really all of the above. And so, you know, a lot of work to be done. And you know, we'll see what that timeline looks like. And, you know, there's certain things and steps and processes and, you know, look, I don't think I'm, you know, breaking any type of news, but, you know, I think one of the first things that has to happen is for the Big Ten to get their TV deal done. And, you know, we all know and hear and understand that Fox is going to be the major player, you know, in that, but they're not going to be the only partner. And so who are the other partners? And so, you know, those are all things that still need to be decided. And, you know, it's Brett's job. It's our job, meaning the presidents and the athletic directors, to put the Big 12 in the very, very best position that we can for the future.
And that's my last thing. Do you feel as confident now as you felt that the Big 12, no matter what, the Big 12 will have the opportunity and a seat at the table to win championships in no matter what sports at the highest level?
Amen. I really do believe that. And I think, you know, for our Baylor family, I think Baylor's in a really, really good position. And I think when we think about intercollegiate athletics, the future, you know, quote unquote, big time, Power 5, nationally relevant, you know, however you want to, whatever description you want to use, right? I think the Big 12 is going to be right in the middle of that conversation.
All right, that's Baylor's Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades, from Tuesday. So you have Bill Hancock, and we hear about the Super 2, and he has that comment he made, and that there's Mack Rhoades, when asked a little bit about the possibility of a separation, which still could happen. We know that. Chuck Neinas, I asked him that question, his thoughts about it. Today, when we recorded the interview, he'll run us at around 4:05. By the way, super chat. Thank you. $10 from Daniel Pitts Weingarten. Do you still need an Iowa State helmet? No. Nick Jost, who we saw at Big 12 Media Days, is sending us an Iowa State helmet. We'll have that probably sometime early next week. We are looking forward to the new Big 12.
Thank you for the offer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I said that on the chat. We are looking forward to the new Big 12, especially Brigham Young, maybe some refugees like the 4 corner schools from the Pac-12. And who knows? We don't know, but that is, of course, a part of the simmering.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, he said it right there. Everybody's waiting on the Big Ten. What is this deal going to look like? And I actually, just in like the last 5 minutes, noticed something kind of interesting here. And there may not be anything to it at all or not, but Andrew Marchand, he's probably like the number one guy in the country when it comes to covering sports media, which is weird. You know, people cover sports and then the media gets covered, but like that's how it is nowadays. But he's really good at it. And, you know, lots of interesting stories that he'll break or have the inside track on, you know, big announcer movements, you know, like when the Joe Buck stuff was going on, like that's right in his wheelhouse, or the streaming wars and how that's going to affect sports as a whole. He does a great job. And I don't know if this was a slip of the tongue or if this was just a big ball of nothing, but one of the stories for those who you know, like announcer talk, is Jason Benetti is apparently in talks to become the number 2 college football announcer, and he would join Brock Heward in a group, okay? So y'all got that, right? Jason Benetti. And Andrew Marchand responds by saying, NBC also liked Benetti. If it had its Big Ten deal done, NBC would likely have been big players. So maybe that's a Freudian slip. Maybe that's nothing at all. But we do know that various networks are trying to carve out a position in the Big Ten. We know they've already got like their main player in Fox, and we know that they're probably going to get over $1 billion. It's just a matter of how much over $1 billion do they get? How does that compare to the SEC and whatnot? But we do know that them and the SEC will be in a whole galaxy by themselves. But yeah, I'm curious to see if that's a slip of the tongue or if you know, that's just confirmation that NBC is, not that it hasn't been rumored, various networks and all that, but you know, just interesting is what I'm saying.
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting to me that if,
especially given who does the Notre Dame games.
Yes. Well, and NBC's got to expand. Like, if they want to expand, they've got to expand past one team. Now, they can still make a sweet deal to Notre Dame if Notre Dame decides to stay independent. But that Fox, who is, you know, from the reports, because they are the ones who own the Big Ten Network, are helping guide these negotiations.
Yes.
If they guide them away from ESPN to NBC as the other partner, because NBC and Peacock need more content, and that is something that they could be maybe overly enthusiastic to get, since ESPN already has the SEC, and I know that we dog it all the time, but they've got the ACC till 2036.
Yeah.
So they've got kind of content where they might be a little distracted from the Big Ten or not be able to enthusiastically back them as much. So NBC sneaking in and getting that deal wouldn't surprise me, and Fox may be saying, like, why not go with NBC so that we can stand up against ESPN a little bit better.
Would have likely been big players. When is the Big Ten deal supposed to be done? I thought a month ago we were talking about $1 billion, and all of a sudden you don't hear much about
because
that.
They might not get him.
Right.
Yeah.
So why would they be big players for an announcer to talk about games they're not going to have?
Mm-hmm.
So if you get the Big Ten deal done, hey, we've got Big Ten games. We need announcers.
Here you go.
Hey, Jason Benetti, come on down. But now you can't do that because you don't have a deal done.
And look, Jason Benetti's very good.
Yeah.
Very good. So.
And he is. But also I read that only maybe in my way that if it had its Big Ten deal done, as if they do, they just haven't, like, finalized it.
Yeah, that's how I read it.
Yeah,
that's how we read it. Yeah.
That's exactly why I brought it up. Yeah, that's why I said it's either a big ball of nothing or it's a Freudian slip. It's a slip of the tongue. That's exactly what I'm getting at. If it had its Big Ten deal done, implying that they are in negotiations for a Big Ten deal.
Absolutely.
Revealing that, hey, they might be one of those networks that's being talked about if it wasn't already confirmed elsewhere. But I haven't seen any confirmation that NBC's working on its Big Ten deal. Only their piece in Notre Dame, obviously, and then what they might want to build around that. If you guys will remember, it was like 3 days ago, there was the talk about the loose Big 12 and Notre Dame and what that could do. And NBC wants to build programming. Remember? Shoulder programming around Notre Dame. And hey, who's a great candidate for that? How about the Big 12? Like, that's the whole thing. That's what I'm saying is, like, that's either just a random slip or that's letting us know that, they're going to be one of those parties. And if they are, well, that's big news for the Big 12 because that's less games that would be available, less windows, or anybody else for that matter who NBC might have had interest in or who might have had interest in NBC. So, again, like Mack Rhoades says, the Big 10 deal, they need to figure that out. Well, there you go, because there's one party that might be off the table that you thought might be an option because they're also going to join the Big Ten party and pair that with Notre Dame. Now, what that reveals about Notre Dame and the Big Ten, maybe something, maybe nothing. Again, that's why I found it highly interesting, and it will also be highly interesting for Mack Rhoades and for everyone else is if you know that Fox already has the Big Ten. We know that. Let's say NBC is another piece of that. Well, where does it stop, though? Does it stop with one more party like Amazon joining, or does Netflix also get involved? And everybody comes in like vultures and takes every piece of the Big Ten they can and fill up on that, and then where's everybody else? And where are their time slots? And there's the fear. And so, yeah, that's massive news if that's the direction that it's headed.
And then what does that leave for CBS as well in all of this as well?
Or people that are rumored to be interested that might not care if it's not a certain brand.
Yep.
It might not be worth the investment for some. Especially some of the outer mentions, like Netflix. I really do wonder because I feel like it's one thing to have a streaming service, guys. Another thing to do live sports on a streaming service. Like that takes a big commitment that they're not really set up for in any way versus an Amazon who's already in the game with skins. That's a different ball game. So that's why I'm a little hesitant to believe that they're going to come diving in, but who knows?
They do a lot of soccer. So
Netflix does?
No, I thought you were talking NBC. No, Netflix doesn't.
I'm saying Netflix to start basically doing live sports would be completely from scratch. Yeah. And so that's why whenever they're mentioned, I'm like, I don't know. That seems like it would take a while to build up. And I don't know that they're making massive live sports investments when we just got done having a whole panic attack about their shares going down off mere speculation.
Why would you not do something lower tier to like figure yourself out first?
Exactly.
And as opposed to like, hey, all you fans who love college, this particular conference, come and watch us on Netflix.
You're not going to start with like Big Ten broadcasts and be like, let's just figure it out as we go. No, you do like the USFL or something if you were going to try to start doing streaming sports. So again, that's why my eyebrows raise a bit with that tweet right there.
All right, when we come back, we will hear from Grayson Grundhoefer, Sikkim365.com, recruiting analyst, co-host of the Bearcast. He's next, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. They have a lot of great deals always over at Richard Carr. They are the people you can count on. They've been that for over 20 years in Central Texas. I guess it was about a month ago at this point. I had to take my car over to Richard Carr to get it worked on, and Donnie and the great people over there provided some incredible customer service, got it done in just a few days, and it's been driving great ever since, and I had to take it over there twice now here over the last 6 months or so, and each time I've got my car back, it's been quick. It's been a pleasure to deal with the people over there and not the hassle that it can be working with some other companies. So if you are in the market for a new car, truck, or even a pre-owned, don't wait any longer. They've got cars and trucks that are arriving weekly at Richard Carr. Get your name on their inbound vehicle list to reserve a brand new Buick, GMC, or Cadillac before anyone else. Again, if you want to get into a brand new ride, then call the dealership up and tell them you want to get on that inbound vehicle list. It is basically your placeholder, your spot in line to be first come, first serve when your car, truck, or SUV does arrive. That is if you want to buy new. That's how you can get it as quickly as possible. But if you are looking to get into a car today, well, consider one of their dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks that have all undergone 172-point inspections before ever hitting the lot. They'll pay top dollar on your trade with dozens of lending options. They love to say yes when others say no to loans. So go online or come by to check out the inventory today. Trust the good local people you can count on for over, as I mentioned earlier, 23 years in Central Texas, run by proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial Exit.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Grayson Grundhoefer of Sikkim365.com. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Grayson Grundhoefer, Sikkim365.com recruiting analyst and also co-host with Craig of the Bearcast, wrote a story today in the Sikkim 365 premium section predicting the Big 12 season, week 1. It goes over certain games. Grayson, thank you very much. I have to ask you that. I don't know how to predict games after I know what they are that week or the week before during that year. Is this something you kind of just enjoy, as kind of just have fun with it?
Yeah, so it's actually really interesting, Smokey, but I think it was like 2012, on ESPN, a guy named Jake Trotter started doing these week-by-week predictions during the off-season, and I just loved them. And actually, like, for some of my friends, I would do it for Baylor. I had a friend that went to A&M and a friend that went to Tech, and I just did it just for, the three of us, just for fun. And then, time passed and Jake left ESPN or stopped writing it. David Ubbin started doing it for a little bit, but really it was the Jake Trotter one that really, kind of inspired me. And then over the last 4 years, I've been doing it every year for the Big 12. So I have a lot of fun with it. I know a lot of the members on our site love it as well. And then it's also a free article, so anyone can go in and read it and see kind of my take on how things are going to go. Obviously, I'm not going to get every single game right or every single score right, but it's kind of my general thoughts of where we're at currently in the season, and I'll be done with it by the time the season starts, so everyone can kind of lock me into my predictions before the year.
By the way, we have a lot of West Virginia fans, some Pittsburgh fans, and that game is a part of course, the Week 1 predictions. Paul?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. Are you pandering to our West Virginia fans with that pick?
Yeah, it's a really interesting game, to be honest with you, because I think everyone going into that game is going to be like, all right, let's see the fireworks, right, with Keaton Slovis and JT Daniels. I think everyone's, thinking, oh, this is going to be a high-scoring game. And I actually don't see it like that. I think it's going to be a really physical game. Both these teams are going to be fresh from the offseason. Both have quite a bit of high hopes on the defensive side. But the storyline going in is going to be JT Daniels versus Keaton Slovis because they were on the same team at USC. And then also the fact that just this game is back after being gone for 11 years. So, you're going to have to read it. I don't want to give anything away because you can just go right to the article and see it. But I definitely I think West Virginia is going to be a pretty good team this year, and I think Pitt will be a good team. So it's going to make for probably the best game of Week 1.
Grayson, another new commit this week to talk about as Baylor strikes with their 23rd pledge now overall, and we still got, 6-7 months until National Signing Day, but a couple days ago, Trey Wilson, defensive lineman out of Garland, Texas, made his pledge to the Bears. What can you tell us about Trey and what all this means overall?
Yeah, so it took a little bit longer than I expected. I put a prediction in back on June 26th, which was right after his official visit. And I think all indications after that visit was, Baylor was the place for him. He had a lot of offers and a lot of them were out of the state. And so I feel like he just kind of sat back, went on the visit, and really his relationship with Dennis Johnson, Dave Aranda, the person over player thing came up a lot with him. I think all of that combined really just made the decision an easy one. And for Baylor, they were able to, kind of get that last official visit because he'd already been on 3 other official visits before the Baylor one. This is a great pickup for Baylor. I mean, he's got 30 offers. You're talking about, Arkansas, Florida State, Miami, Michigan, Nebraska, Oklahoma State, USC, Utah. So some really, really good programs in there. And I think he's a guy that fits Baylor's scheme really well as they're trying to get more athletic up front. They want to create more pressure with their defensive line and jack position. And I think Trey Wilson can come in and continue to add to kind of what they've assembled with this pass rushing core. It's very impressive what they've done in this class in that regard.
Yeah, so 23 now, and it's not even August 1st yet. So they're down to their final spots. I mean, they have to be, but what does that kind of look like? And the second part to that, you've got 3 DNs now with Trent Thomas, Trey Wilson, and Jaron Woods, along with DK Kalu, who we've talked about as more of a nose. So 4 guys on the front, although, various roles. How do you see not only where they are class-wise overall, but defensive line-wise where they are overall?
Yeah, so actually Trey is kind of in the mold right now as being a jack.
Okay.
So I think that's where they actually see him starting. It's pretty interesting because he's 245 pounds already. So he's kind of getting up there weight-wise. But for right now and for just kind of my view of the class, I have him plugged into the jack position, which he'd be alongside Corey Kelly in that role. But as far as the defensive line goes, I think they have one more spot left, and it seems like Colleen Ellison's Brendan Bent and Northwood, Louisiana defensive lineman Sedarius Collins are the two guys to keep an eye on there. I think they want to add at least one of those guys to the mix. And then I also think they're going to have one more best available slot. And that spot could go to the defensive line as well, as we're going to kind of see what Samu, the big Atascocita nose tackle, what he's going to do. He's got his decision coming on July 30th. So he's a mammoth of a prospect. Kind of reminds me a little bit about Puaita at Baylor. So we'll see what happens there. I also think they have a little bit of wiggle room as well, spots-wise, and I'm starting to get to the point where it looks like it might be closer to 26 or 27, actually, in this class. They've been able to kind of wiggle around and I think find some more spots, but that's kind of my anticipation now, just based on how much contact they've had with a lot of other prospects and kind of where I see the current class and how I see some needs here or there, especially along the defensive line and potentially just best available type guys as well as the season progresses.
While you were talking, I just happened to see a Twitter feed. It's got a picture, 7-on-7, Austin Novosad, whatever. Among all the years you've covered Baylor recruiting, where is he among the interest or the questions or the amount of bandwidth, so to speak, that you get on a recruit?
Yeah, he's got to be at the top, I would think. And, the reason for it really, Smokey, is just the fact that he committed so early, that I think it led to people even asking questions right after he committed, just being like, oh, but he's an A&M legacy. We got to watch, A&M. We got to figure out, are they going to offer him? What happens if they offer? So I got that question for months, it felt like. And then the offers started to trickle in, and then the visits started happening. And so, yeah, he didn't get that offer, the Ohio State offer, till June 1st. So that's when questions really started exploding. But it was happening before that, just because of, people just kind of projecting that he was going to get these kind of offers, which obviously did happen. So, yeah, I would say he's probably at the top as far as guys that I've received the most questions with for the longest time, just because his recruitment has been so Baylor-focused from the very beginning.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you very much, Grayson, for what you do. Throwing out stories left and right. There's so many things, and then we trim it up. He does a lot of that. And next thing you know, here comes more of this and that. There is a Blake Shapen lunch tomorrow at George's Banquet Hall, 11 o'clock until 1 in the Sikkim365.com premium section. There's if you're interested in being a part of that, special guest Blake Shapen, Baylor quarterback, 11 to 1 tomorrow at the hall, which is across from the main store, the main restaurant of George's, just off of I-35.
There's some NIL for you right there.
There you go.
I mean, that's an NIL deal that would not have been possible without name, image, likeness being, cleared up in the college game. So there's, a way that, Shapen's going to benefit and sit around, talk to some fans and have some lunch and all that. And I'm sure for those out there, that'll be a great event. But, that's cool that there are opportunities like that now available for guys and stuff like that. I mean, really, it's like Johnny Manziel signing autographs. I mean, you look back on how ridiculous that is.
Well, think of all the panic that now is gone because of that.
Yeah,
rule.
I mean, and that's the give and the take of it, is you wouldn't even let guys benefit from their signatures. And Johnny Manziel got in trouble for writing his name on other people's helmets or T-shirts or jerseys that were his jerseys,
and
but
his
A&M
name
made every cent off of because he couldn't put his name on the back of it. I mean, that's all ridiculous, and they would not budge on that. They would not budge on Johnny Manziel being able to benefit from clearly Johnny Manziel jerseys that just didn't have his last name, but the same number in the same years that he's, skyrocketing his superstardom. No coincidence there. And if they would have just given a little bit, like a thing like Blake Shapen's doing, or a Q&A session with an autograph signing, or, hey, you can have dinner with the point guard of the basketball team, and like just stuff like that, they just would not budge even an inch. And then you look up now, and it's just like,
how much?
Here you go.
How much would he, among all the, let's say since 2010 when you and I met, Craig arrived in 13, where would he compare if NIL was available then, all the way up until now? Where would he be a part of as a top earner?
Who?
Johnny
Manziel.
Oh, he would have gone. He would have made tons.
At the time,
RG3 would have made a ton.
Yeah.
Johnny Manziel would have made
Bryce Petty would have made a ton.
You know what I think is funny about Johnny Manziel and the A&M fan base? The A&M fan base was the exact 180-degree turn of, when the NCAA, when the teams would say well, look, it's just jersey number 2. That's you're just buying jersey number 2. Well, at A&M for years, nearly 100, there was only one jersey number you would buy. You would buy number 12.
Yeah.
So all the fans would buy 12 for the 12th man, and then all of a sudden, Johnny Football comes along, and there's as many 2s as 12s in that stands, and you're like, oh, really?
Yeah.
It's just the random number? Okay.
No question. Ben Sims, part of the Mackey Award preseason watch list. Dave Remington Award watch list includes Jacob Gall, Baylor center, and there's many others, but those lists came out. There's a lot of those that will still continue to come out into the near future.
Ben Sims got a chance to win that, I think. I don't know really the rest of the landscape out there. I don't know that if there's like a Kyle Pitts type guy. I mean, well, there's not a Kyle Pitts, but like, I mean, somebody who's an overwhelming, like, oh yeah, that dude's the best tight end in college football. I'm probably just blanking on it right now, but Ben Sims is going to be one of the best tight ends in college football. I fully believe that. Very interested to see him get out there here in a few weeks and see what all he can do, because I think he's got a big year in store.
Chuck Neinas, he's next. Chuck Neinas is former Big 8 commissioner, former interim commissioner of the Big 12 from 2011 to 12, and also a guy that's been contacted many times over the years as a consultant. He has negotiated massive television deals, including the one that has led now to where college football is making billions or whatever it might be. I called him about 2 weeks ago. I got to give Brian Howell, who we had on the Covers Colorado, credit. He had a story, and he had some quotes from Chuck Neinas. I tried to call Chuck. He was out overseas. Got a hold of him today and recorded an interview with him today. His thoughts about college football, the landscape, the money, the networks that control it all, and much more. And, of course, the Pac-12, Big 12, and everything else in between. Chuck Neinas next. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco. Available on DoorDash now. So, look, if you're hanging out at a barbecue and, you hit the dreaded we're out of beer, now you don't have to run and go get it. You can hit up DoorDash and make your order. And no better place for craft beer than Riverbend Liquor and Wine. No better place for locally sourced whiskeys like TX, Balcones, Devil's River, Garrison Brothers, all there and available, and always the roster churning at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. You can see that on the Instagram page, and whenever they get new cool stuff in, or whenever they got a promotion, whether it's for a spirit, for a beer, for a hard seltzer, they're gonna do a cool thing, and they always do that at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, behind the bank, or hit them up on DoorDash. Check them out on Instagram.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Championship if you score in all likelihood. And perhaps the CFP. Jackson trying to turn the corner. And he did not get there. Darren McVay raced him to the pylon and made sure he came up inches short.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Chuck Neinas, you remember the name, Neinas Sports Services, former Big 8 commissioner, and also for a year helped the Big 12 get through some rocky times, which they've had a handful of those. Joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. So you watch and see what's happening with this landscape. Is it something where you want to jump right back in it or just stay away from it as much as possible?
I'm glad to be retired.
I bet you are. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing that is so bothersome is uncertainty. There's nothing that's certain anymore. And you have the name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal combined. And that just, while you can make a good case for people deserving things, but what has happened is it creates problems that we tried to avoid. For example, we tried to make certain that there was a level playing field. Well, that's gone. We tried to keep the alums and outside interests from being involved in the recruiting process. That's gone. There seems to be no understanding as to direction. And you take all of that combined, plus, you have litigation, you have various state legislatures involved. I mean, where's it going to end? I have great concern about the future of college athletics.
A lot of the heat goes on the NCAA, or is directed that way, and at Mark Emmert. Is it their fault?
Well, I think there's probably more blame there than needs be. I think that the colleges themselves have to step up and take some responsibility for this. Now, it's true that the organization has not answered the bell, but on the other hand, you solve your problems at home first. And I think that some of the colleges are taking advantage of the situation because, again, there's no guidance and no guardrails.
You have seen this before. When you took over the Big 12, there was tumultuous times, and obviously with what's going on with Nebraska and Colorado, and eventually, of course, A&M and what happened with Missouri. Is this all about ego? Is it a combination of ego and money, even though schools should try to do whatever's best for them? Is it almost to the point now it's only about what's best for them?
Well, let's be candid about it. College television is running college football.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I'm most proud of in my career was taking the NCAA to court and winning at the Supreme Court level. That was the College Football Association, represented by Oklahoma and Georgia. And so what we wanted to do was to help promote the sport. Well, that has happened, and we did not ever understand way back in 1984 that the money would be as it is today. But because of that, you got ESPN and Fox dictating who plays and when they play and who gets the money. Why do you think OU and Texas left?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Hay out the barn, there's nothing we can do about it?
Not now. I think what the Big 12 has done, I admire for what Bob Bowlesby and the conference has done. They took a negative, which was OU and Texas leaving, and brought in the 4 best programs remaining and made it a positive. They've got an exciting conference now. They really do. I think the Big 12 is going to flourish because the competitiveness of the new members combined with what's there. I mean, look how good Baylor's doing. And it's going to be an outstanding conference. I'm very bullish on the new Big 12.
Did you know anything about Brett Yormark when he was introduced last week at Big 12 Media Days and announced a week before that? Did you know much about him?
Not at all.
Have you seen much of what he has said and get a feel for what he might be able to do?
Well, I've read his statements, yes. The proof will be in the pudding like anything else. He certainly must have impressed the presidents who hired him, and I just hope that he will be able to capitalize on what I think is a progressive moving conference, and I hope that he will get some support especially from the athletics directors, to overcome some of the daily hurdles, which if you're not in the business, you don't understand.
Chuck, you've been a commissioner, and you've seen when schools or conferences have had to kind of run, kind of react. You mentioned what Bob Bowlesby and the Big 12 did back in September a year ago. If somebody asked you for your advice about the remaining schools from the Pac-12, of the ones that might be interested, how much oomph does Utah or perhaps the Arizona schools or Colorado, and maybe even if Washington was interested or Oregon, how much would they bring to the Big 12?
Well, I think there's no doubt they would add some good inventory to the conference. But you got to remember that the institutions that have come into the Big 12 had already indicated an interest in joining, because you remember the conference explored expansion earlier, and the 4 that they took in had already experienced interest. I think as a conference commissioner, I would certainly find out if there would be interest, but it would be incumbent upon the institutions themselves, in my opinion, to make the first move.
Yeah.
I would say that because I've been on the other side of it. You don't like to have people poaching. And so I think you open the door and let people know they would be welcome. But I think that it would be the institution's responsibility to signal they wish to move.
So you were there in the Big 12's time in which they had lost Nebraska and Colorado, and then, of course, A&M and Missouri were next. You hear all sorts of thoughts about what broke up. It was the Longhorn Network, or whether it was people just got tired of 1 or 2 schools dictating everything. Did you ever find that to be true when you were there for when you were as the interim?
Well, it's a complicated situation. There's no question that there was concern about the future of the conference because of the efforts on behalf of the Pac-12 to try to indicate that they wanted to poach some members from the Big 12. and that caused people to be worried about what is the future. And I think that what happened was that it got a little bit out of control. From an A&M standpoint, I think that they were tired of being in the shadow of Texas and felt that going to the Southeastern Conference gave them more freedom. And far as Missouri was concerned, I think that the money aspect of the SEC is what attracted Missouri. Now, what is interesting to me, and I'm not trying to be well, I am. I'm a Monday morning quarterback. If you take a look at what has happened to Missouri, Nebraska, and Colorado, how well are they doing where they are?
Not very well. Making a lot of money, but not doing well.
No, and if they had remained with the Big 12 Conference, I think that they would have done better. Maybe not as well financially, but I think they would be more comfortable. I think especially Missouri and Nebraska's recruiting has been hurt by departing from the Big 12 because, for example, they're not getting many out of Texas anymore.
You know, it's like, okay, they're all making tons of money, 50, 60, whatever, 80, now 100 million has been suggested as well. But you wonder down deep inside, is that enough? Does that scratch their itch? Are they happy? When you invited TCU in West Virginia, how long did it take for them to say yes?
30 seconds.
That's what I thought.
No, the TCU was a slam dunk. I mean, there was no debate about TCU. For the other position, we had 15 institutions that signified interest in joining the conference. And so we did a very thorough job, in my opinion. We solicited the opinion of 3 outside experts. We talked to our television partners, and we had our own committee within the conference, and eventually we centered on West Virginia to fill the final position. And the president of West Virginia, Jim Clements, was very, very effective. He's now the president of Clemson.
We had Bill Hancock on last week, who is the one that is, of course, the spokesperson or executive director of the college football playoff. I asked him last week, would college football fans, if this turns out to be the so-called, Chuck, Super 2, 30 or 40 or how many schools it might be, I can't imagine that a college football championship at the highest level will not be including more than that. He said college fans would not walk away, that they will not lose any of the fans. Do you believe that?
Well, to me, it would be absolutely wrong. I mean, they have to be inclusive. I mean, I think that, well, first of all, I'm a college football fan. I've watched Division III games. I've watched Division II games. I've watched Division I AA games. There's a lot of good college football being played at all levels. People probably don't understand that. I mean, all you got to do is take a look at the rosters of the NFL, and you find that there are a lot of good players that didn't come from Power 5 conferences. So my point is, I'm interested in the promotion of college football as a whole. I can't believe that 2 conferences are going to try to dominate to the extent that they exclude everybody else. That would be wrong, and it is not to the benefit of college football for that to happen. We want to have competition across the board, and I think Baylor and Oklahoma State, well, just take a look at what the Big 12 teams did in postseason competition last year. Mm-hmm. And look whom they beat. Mississippi, Notre Dame, LSU. I mean, what are you talking about? So who can say who's going to win? That's why we play the game.
Chuck Neinas, again, interim Big 12 commissioner, long time a part of the Big 8, has negotiated television network deals and many other things. Do you see college football like it is today and go, what happened?
Yeah, no one would have predicted back in 1984 when we won the Supreme Court case that college football would blossom television-wise as it has. That's for certain.
NIL, great, good for the young men or women. The transfer portal, that's so jumbled. Who knows what that's about? But okay, are we losing sight of what collegiate athletics is supposed to be?
Here's what we are losing sight of: education. No one talks about education anymore. You can't go transferring from one place to another and be on a degree track program. When the coaches go to recruit, the recruits and their families ask, what's the NIL program? They don't ask about what kind of education will my son get. We're losing that. That's what college athletics is supposed to be about, helping young people gain an education. And now we've become so interested in the dollar that we forget that education, a good education, produces a dollar in the long run.
Chuck, thanks for your time. Appreciate what you did for the Big 12 and what you've done for college football. I appreciate your time.
Well, good luck to you.
Yes, sir.
I'll watch see how Baylor does this year.
Yes, sir.
It's amazing how well they've done in both football and basketball.
It has absolutely been a great run. It's Chuck Neinas with us, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Okay, good conversations going on. A lot of you loved what he was saying, and a lot of you thought he didn't know what he was talking about. I'll say this about he doesn't know what he's talking about. This is the man that negotiated the groundbreaking television deal that led to where we are today, and it's been 40 years or so ago when Georgia and Oklahoma sued the NCAA. He's the man that saved the Big 12 Conference when they were about to be crushed for twice in 3 years. That doesn't mean he knows everything. He also is someone that is relied upon by others to in fact, he's the one that helped Colorado hire, who's the USC AD? Bone. Excuse me, Bone. He's the one that suggested Colorado hire him, who's now the guy running USC, who's, of course, doing what they're doing. He doesn't mean you have to agree with him, but to say that he doesn't know what he's talking about, hell, I'd listen to him all day long. Yes, there's some old school values in there, and what the hell's wrong with that, too?
Well, I mean, you also have to take into account that that could very well be somebody who's 21 years old, and all the stuff you just mentioned happened before that. So it's not so much he doesn't know what he's talking about, it's that newer fans don't know what they're talking about in terms of admitting that, who's Chuck Neinas, who's that guy? Like that's just other person's lack of knowledge on his place in college football history, and it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, and he said, he goes back, he mentioned my bad, and I don't know if he was talking about that or not. Then that's
because, look, I listen to podcasts, and they tell me about stuff that happened in the 70s. I wasn't alive, and I learned, but that's, if you go back, though, and if you are a college football fan and you go back and you listen to stuff that happened in the 90s, or the 80s, just go to the 2000s and the BCS. The BCS led us to where we are. And then you go to the 90s and you go to having, the polls and how those worked out. And then you go back to the 80s. Everything has led to what followed, and then what followed that, and then where we are now. If you look back at history, realignment, for as much as it makes people crazy, it's like catnip for college football fans, that's happened a bajillion times. It's happened a bajillion times, just the Big 12 alone. Now, I think most people know the Big 12's history because it's not that long. But, you can go back to times when Tulane was an SEC member and, various other incarnations of leagues and what those melded into. And so, the lack of the greater the knowledge you have of how college football has kind of always worked and how it's always been kind of changing will help you in certain times like these. But if you do have some passing knowledge of that, it's also why what's going on right now isn't as much of a surprise, or it doesn't feel like it's some one-off thing. No, it's a thing that's it's a continuing evolution of college football's history.
I think the surprising thing the last 2 years has been how it's happened, because when Arkansas left to go to the SEC back in the day, everybody knew that the Southwest Conference was on life support because of the scandals and the fact that it had become a conference that ultimately didn't care about anything that was going on outside the borders of Texas. And I'm sure Arkansas really felt that because they really only cared about beating each other. They weren't winning national titles anymore. And there was all this, all the SMUs and A&Ms and everybody who was getting in trouble with the NCAA. Something had to be done. So the writing was on the wall for that for a long time, as opposed to, walking into your office, one day last year, go Texas and Oklahoma or go to the SEC, came out of nowhere. Literally.
And I know that we had somebody on, I guess it was a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was somebody that I read, and they said that if you pretended to not be shocked by the USC and UCLA moves, then you're just, you're totally lying. And I won't say that I wasn't totally shocked, but the USC part of it really didn't surprise me. I don't know about you guys. It was surprising, but not in the way that I never saw that. It wasn't that kind of a deal. It's, you may not have predicted when it happened or how it happened. What nobody predicted was the UCLA part of it. That was the part that if you want to, anybody saying they saw the UCLA to the Big Ten angle, they're lying. Like, I agree, they're lying. But the USC thing, I don't know. I feel like that, after OU and Texas did what they did, you just had to look around at the room. I mean, look at what we're doing with the ACC right now. No different of, hey, as soon as Clemson gets that opportunity, we just didn't know the LA schools were working on it together and when that opportunity was going to come timing-wise. But, it was the West Coast OU Texas move, basically. So, it's just it's another chapter in what is a long and storied history of college football changing and conferences changing and all of that. But it's vastly different when you think of the big picture and what it really means versus what it meant all those other times.
By the way, mentioning Mike Bone, talk about a guy who's had the last good couple years.
Oh, man.
Gone into an athletic department that was in shambles and has been there now. Granted, the athletic director's about third on the totem pole when it comes to making that decision of moving conferences, but goes and makes the biggest, and I will say Lincoln Riley was the biggest hire over Brian Kelly and all that in college football last year, just absolutely pulling the rug out from under Oklahoma and doing that. And then, for a school that's had some financial troubles, like, okay, well, we're spending this much on a coach and got to do some things to update the stadium, which is older. How do we offset those costs? Hey, I think it's a good idea when the Big Ten calls to answer and say yes.
Whoever called who, I mean, he might have been the one pulling that trigger. I don't know. That's something we'll learn, I guess, over the course of time, but certainly he's got his chest puffed out, and for good reason. Lynn Swann wouldn't have pulled this move off. I mean, I feel pretty confident saying that. Not many ADs probably would. I mean, that's why he's at USC, why he had success at Cincinnati, and I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about him over the years as well. But, the USC part, not super shocked. UCLA part, though, that was just out of nowhere.
Yeah, if they would have said USC and
Oregon, nobody would have really – I mean, we would have been like, wow, but we wouldn't have gotten crazy like we did.
Not at all. And by the way, for those of you asking about the 84 ruling, it was Oklahoma and Georgia who sued the NCAA, and it was about basically television opportunities before 1984, and even Sir Bob Bloblaws.
Bob Bloblaw.
Okay, that's not how you spell that, but it's he can.
Bob Loblaw.
Before 1984, schools could only be on TV 5 times over 2 years. That changed. Now every single game you could imagine is on a Tier 3 or some sort of TV. It's live. You can find it everywhere. And so that's also what that was for. And
unreasonable
our guest, Chuck
restraint,
Neinas, helped do that.
Unreasonable restraint of trade is what it was called. And, basically limiting them. And they fought back, and here we are. It made a huge difference in the whole college landscape,
There's a couple of you that say when we discuss education, and Craig had, near the end of the show yesterday, had some very passionate comments about that. And then also there have been some of you that said education is great, but NIL deal gets you paid now. That's how football schools are recruiting. We're not arguing that. What we're trying to say is what happens when the NIL deals run out and you no longer play football? Have you put yourself in a position to grow up, mature? Yes, you might have a little money, but what happens when the cheers die down? We have heard and seen too many stories of those who did not know how to handle their money, and believe me, I've struggled with that myself. But then there was nothing else after their football career.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's saying that they're better off not getting paid. Nobody's saying that they shouldn't get paid. I mean, at least not in this room. But there's another side to that where I don't know. I just, as a human being, which I know it's hard for any of us to really think that way anymore. Like, we're so just, what does Twitter say? What does Instagram say? I don't know. I don't think we just think about just human beings anymore, just on individual or group basis as much, unless we're just thinking about how much we hate that group or that individual or whatever. I'm just thinking about the young man and the young woman who's not getting the big money NIL deal like a Bryce Young is, or a Caleb Williams, or whoever rumoredly, reportedly, or like Texas Tech's football team is. Like, that's what's great about what they're doing, is that I think they primarily did it to just like eliminate any infighting over this guy's the quarterback making all the money, and they totally eliminate any like Quinn Ewers situation where there's jealousy, or a Bijan thing where there's jealousy. Very smart on their part. But also that $25,000 would go a long way for all of those guys. But there is a calculation there that, hey, let's get some walk-ons that might go scholarship elsewhere by giving – there's a lot to that. But not everybody's going to be able to get that deal. And even those who are getting money while they're in college, that's going to last them. You hope that they save it and that it's going to last them for forever, but it's not. I mean, unless they're just making gobs and gobs of money, but we have no indication, even with the Nico Iamaleava reports, of anybody making just retirement money at this point. Maybe there are some guys that do. But think about how many college athletes there are. You're maybe just thinking about like a team, but there's not only the team, there's a team within a conference, there's multiple conferences, there's multiple different levels, and there's multiple different sports. So at the end of the day, we're not just talking about a handful of guys who are getting NIL, and they're out of the equation. Like for those guys making life-changing money already, good for you, man. Just hopefully you handle it well and you get your taxes right and you put a little in savings and all that. But what about the thousands of others that aren't making thousands of dollars or millions of dollars? My point was not anything about not paying or any of that. It's not that. It's just let's not just throw the education piece to the side like it's nothing, like it has no value, like it doesn't matter. And I know there will be somebody inevitably who says, well, when I was a college football player at Mary Hardin Baylor or whatever, like we didn't have time to go to class, or you know what I'm saying. You hear that, guys, well, we the degree is kind of a flimsy thing or whatever. You hear that some places, but that's not every place. There are places where it does matter. And if you don't want it to matter, you won't allow it to matter. But there are hundreds, if not thousands of athletes every year that graduate that aren't going to be playing on Sundays or aren't going to be playing in the NBA. And we can't just, not think about them or throw them to the wayside and not prepare them for the future or try to put a little education in their brains just because we all want to go gaga over NIL deals. That's all I'm saying is it's the youth. It's our future, man. And you might think that college doesn't mean anything or that it does, but it does mean something. It does help prepare people. There's a reason why everybody's guffawing over a simple Dave Aranda story where he simply pointed out a body language lesson. And I saw somebody go, so what? That's what a coach is supposed to do. But that's where we are now, is that that's like a headline story as a coach did what he's supposed to do rather than talk about NIL or money being exchanging hands. And that's what I'm saying is that coaching life lesson, educational, prepare the future for the future, that can't get lost just because we go gaga over TV deals. And so I'm not speaking to Bryce Young or Caleb Williams. They're going to be fine. They're going to play in the NFL. I'm speaking for the 99% of other athletes out there that aren't making millions at 18 years old.
Let me tell you something. I mean, we encounter it all the time, but when football or whatever sport is over, there are guys who don't have a plan. And so it's good that they're going to make a little bit of money, but the plan is supposed to come in college. That's where you're supposed to get the jumping off point in. And, just encountering some guys that, have that injury, like they think they're going to at least get an NFL shot so they can make some money for a little while, get injured their senior year, and then they're like, well, no, the NFL shot's not coming. It's not coming ever. And even though they knew it was going to be a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, now it's not anything because that injury was bad enough, and you've got to restart. So that's where the education part comes in. Plus,
well, let me get some stats, okay? And then I want you 3,000 college players are looked at by the NFL basically every year. 275 are drafted. Yes, there's some also free agents that are signed that are undrafted. Less than 1% of college football players, when their eligibility is over, are drafted. Then the NFL career, the average career is around 2.5 years. Those stats alone are why education is also part of even those who make the money, get drafted, and also have great contracts.
Can our college education system be streamlined and better? Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, no, there's no, I mean, for those that want to point that out as their reason for the argument, yes, absolutely. There's too many diploma mills. There's too many that don't care. You're absolutely right on that.
Absolutely. There's too many things that are antiquated, like you should take this class and that class and all that. But also, you know what? I'll just give you my own college experience. I took meteorology, because it was a fun science class to fill a credit. And guess what? Now I know what kind of clouds to look for when I'm outside and I don't have cell phone access to tell me what storm might be rolling through. Like, those look bad, I better get inside. So it was useful. It helped my brain grow. Helping your brain grow is good because we are living in the opposite of the age of enlightenment right now.
Oh, yeah.
There's more information available at our fingertips, and we understand less of it than we ever possibly could have.
Based on Twitter, most people can't spell lose. They can't spell lose. It's L-O-S-E. It's not 2 O's, but most of Twitter doesn't know that based on my experience. So, I mean, ultimately, has that changed the world all that much? No, but education's not a bad thing, and it's not these guys should be able to play and make millions in NIL or get an edge. No, it's not that. It can be both. You can be a walk-on and make $25,000 at Texas Tech and also get a great degree because you're probably not playing in the NFL and you'll be set up for life. Now, does Texas Tech need to do its part to make sure you get the right degree? Because I do know guys or gals who are athletes who just kind of, let's just give you general studies and you figure it out after we get done with you. There's way too much of that going on. This is not just on the athletes, but there is a way that it can come together and produce great young men and women who do benefit financially, who also benefit educationally, and ultimately the hope as Americans is they benefit our society moving forward as a whole. And that's my thing, is it all can encompass one thing, which is the betterment of everybody and those individuals. It's not just flash the cash 24/7.
I agree with both of you, and I feel the same way. The thing about it is we see stories, we've read stories, we have viewed stories about players who have left, who've been broken down, who had money, they've blown it, they've had to go take their Super Bowl rings and sell it at a pawn shop, and all the sad stories. There's more of those than probably the success. Lamont Tucker. Craig Smoak has been 100% correct from day one when it comes to education and accountability. These universities need to stop pretending.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the universities too. That's the thing. I want to make very clear. It's not just on the players, or it's not the players' job to make sure all that happens. It's the universities. And yeah, for far too long, far too many universities have just taken their big fat TV network paycheck and don't really care about the third string wide receiver who may or may not have gotten his degree and what happens to him after that. I mean, it's on everybody. And, I just don't think we have to throw out all of the other benefits that come with college athletics because we just want to make this the NFL as quickly as possible. And that's what it seems like a couple networks and a couple leagues in particular are trying to do. And if they go that route, that's fine. Go let the Georgia players and the Alabama players and everybody else, Vandy, Tennessee, go make as much money. Go make your money, man. Nobody's trying to take cash out of your hands here. I'm not trying to revert it back to the way that it was, where only executives and presidents and chancellors got the money part. No, those days are dead and over, and it's a long time coming. But let's just not focus solely on the money and forget all of the other benefits that come with college athletics and just turn it into a glorified minor league. How does that benefit, I guess it benefits a couple people, dozen people or so, but I'm thinking bigger picture, man. I'm thinking all of us together, this country, the future. That's probably too big for this conversation. And
no, it's not.
Too
a lot
off the
of people
rails,
agree with you, and there's going to be some that have their own opinion. MP Craig Dragon is going off today. Paul, he's a dragon, and we're not. But we all have our passion for this.
Ohio State fan says, "Encompass me, Craig." So I don't know what that means, but
yeah, me neither.
Doesn't sound all that bad. All
right. No. Speaking of this, speaking of everything from yesterday's show, how it wrapped up and what Craig and Paul and I were talking about. Here's a picture of a Jalen Petrie, drafted by the Houston Texans. Some athletes see their education as plan B, but Baylor football's Jalen Petrie always saw both. School and football was plan A. Before heading to the NFL, he completed both a business degree and a master's in educational psychology at Baylor. And that just happened to come up yesterday on my timeline for whatever reason. Yesterday evening at some point I went, damn, there you go. That doesn't mean that everybody does that or every education or degree works, but look what he did to set himself up, whether he plays it down in the NFL or not.
And tell me that doesn't matter. Tell me just because he's in the NFL, that other stuff doesn't matter. No, I think that smile on his face isn't because he's a Houston Texan. I think that's because he saw all that hard work pay off. And guess what? The life lessons along the way, like these little bits of knowledge that shape us as people, that's a lot of that goes on in college, man. People living on their own for the first time. Now, the athletes do, bring in the dough, and it's good to see that they're getting it right now. But not everybody's a Jalen Petrie. Let's face it, there are people that are probably not smart enough to be at the university they are, but they're a great D tackle. Mm-hmm. And they need to be taken care of just as well. And that is stuff that falls through the cracks that is unacceptable. And the more that players have power, hopefully things like that are addressed on some level. Because, again, not everybody can get the Lamborghini NIL deal in their local college town.
And look, college is not for everybody.
No, it's not. It's absolutely
not for
not.
everybody. I think that's kind of something that happened in this country, too, where we thought everybody had to go to college. Well, no, there's different things you can do to hit your professional stride. But I'm reminded of something. I know we got to hit a break here. But a few years ago, Smokey, I went to MCC, and they asked me to do an Upward Bound thing where it was a kind of career day thing. And so they had – I was in a room on a panel with other people who were in – I was in media. I was kind of the media guy, and there were other people in that panel. And there was a kid in the room, and one of the people on the panel asked him what he wanted to do. And he said, I want to be a professional football player. And immediately it came to me as the sports radio guy to tell him what he had to do to make the NFL. And I said, look, I'll tell you this right now. I don't like you're in. And I said, you're in high school. I'm a high school football broadcaster. What's your name? I'd never heard of him. I didn't say that, but what's your name? He told him I'd never heard of him. So right now he's not on the best track to go to the NFL if one of the high school broadcasters in a town that's not very big hasn't heard of the guy. Two, I said, look, you've got that. Okay, you got to work really hard. You got to get noticed. You got to not get hurt. You got all these things. You have to have a plan B. And really, the NFL should be plan B. The NFL should be, if everything works out, then my plan B is great. Plan A should be, I'm going to be a this unless I make it to the NFL. And the kid looked at me like I was crazy. Come to find out he had like a third cousin who had just gotten drafted in the NFL as a 7th-round draft pick. And I said, that guy right now is living a harder life than I think you understand.
Yeah, no,
like
you're right.
It's
not guaranteed.
Every morning his phone rings. If it's the team, he's thinking, oh, crap. And it could be just, hey, make sure you're at the airport at 9:30. Like, but when those guys and the phone rings, they're automatically going, okay, today's the day.
Well, we've seen the guys who make the most money get the phone ringing. First of all, in college, this is from an article from 2020, been the Heartland. In college, only 6.5% of football players make it to the NCAA. Only 1.6 of them make it to the NFL. I mean, there are great stories, incredible stories. But to just sit there and like blow off education in this entire scenario and discussion is, to me, very, very scary.
Well, I mean, we could just move on from this, but education also doesn't mean showing up for your psych class. It also means the other life lessons learned along the way in college from your coaches, from your professors, from your fellow students that you get to know. I mean, there's a lot of development that goes on. I think anybody that's been in college can attest to that. And you're right, Paul, it's not for everybody. Others learn life lessons a different kind of way, and they're not suited for it. But for those that have that opportunity, like not everybody that goes to college doesn't go to college because it's not for them. A lot of them don't go because they can't afford it, or they can't go because they don't have the time. So when you tell people who maybe would have loved that opportunity that it means absolutely nothing, as they can't get a great paying job because they don't have that degree, and you just act like those degrees mean absolutely dog mess. Nah, I'm not flying with that. It might mean dog mess to you because you didn't do it the right way. And there are some jobs where, hey, it might mean something. It might mean a whole lot of nothing. But don't say it just means nothing and that money is the only thing that rules the roost from college athletics. I'm just never going to be on board with that.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. The chat room, of course, some of you disagree. A lot of you do agree. And all of you, we appreciate your opinion. The text line going as well. Now, when we come back, we do have a columnist up in Colorado at Denver. Sean Keeler wrote an article about Colorado and how they need to be watching what's going on, which they are. But he was basically saying you not grab the bag, but you have an option here, an opportunity here. We'll have him on today at 5 and get kind of the feedback. Brian Howell's giving us great feedback on Colorado, and Sean Keeler, his column as well. Also, a couple of other notes. Noah Lyles won the 200 meters world championship of the World Championships in Oregon. That broke one of Michael Johnson's records. He still has a couple, like the 200, I think, world and also Olympic record. But Noah Lyles blew away a field that was impressive. USA finished 1, 2, and 3. And then also coming up next, one of our great sponsors, the U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, had a commander change today. And we're going to welcome somebody new to our family as well. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Right now, there is tons of inventory. Twice as much inventory right now, and also more in transit to fill the lot at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Expecting a huge month of availability right now and throughout the month of July. 2.9% financing on almost all the new cars. Construction inside, outside, right in front of them as well, as it seems like every road possible is under construction in Waco, and yet I've been able to get there whenever I've needed to. It's not that difficult. The summer event that's going on right now includes the 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Lone Star. Special values up to $7,000 or get $1,500 bonus cash and 2.9% financing for 72 months. There is also the 2022 Wagoneer 2 and 3 Series available, 2.9% financing for 72 months, plus $4,500 in competitive bonus cash. Incentive on 2022 Wagoneer right now, limited time at Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Ted Teague, who's a listener of this show, we appreciate him so much. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543. Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. What are some of the things you have coming up?
You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves. Probably 9 out of 10, every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
One of the stories in college football, among many, is Jeremy Pruitt and Tennessee. My goodness, I saw Ross Dellinger and a story he had. Of course, it's also on all the various sites that cover the NCAA. 18 violations, almost $60,000 in illegal benefits by Tennessee football under former head coach Jeremy Pruitt. Charged them 18 level 1 alleged rules violation. The $60,000, of course, you know what happens. I don't know what happens in the next 2 or 3 years with that. Maybe he disappears. But impermissible recruiting benefits And also his wife, Casey, accused of making 25 cash payments, about $12,500, to help a prospect's mother make her car payment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a coach's wife through and through, I guess.
Where is he right now?
Unemployed.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is for people who say, well, this stuff is legal now. Well, no. A coach inducing a player directly is still not legally for the NIL.
Schools aren't supposed to be dabbling with the
Yes.
collectives, even though we know that's BS.
Yeah. So what's kind of sad about this is that had Jeremy Pruitt just waited a minute, none of this probably would have happened to him. But he had already...
Yeah, Ron Meyer and SMU had done the same thing
he had
40 years ago.
But, I mean, for him, it was, he does this, a year later he gets fired, and then a year after that, he could have just set something up for these guys legally. But he was already starting to rub people at Tennessee the wrong way and wasn't winning.
I thought he was going to do well there, and of course that's why I don't hire these coaches. The NCAA accused his staff and Pruitt hosting 6 recruits and their families during a year-long dead period in which programs weren't allowed to have any on-campus recruiting activity because of COVID-19. The NCAA saying the Volunteers hosted the prospects on unofficial visits 9 weekends between July and November the same year. Prospects were given free lodging, meals, transportation, and other benefits that totaled about $12,000, and that's different than the $12,500 to help a parent pay their car.
He had multiple, or his wife, whoever was handling the cash, they made multiple payments for multiple reasons, and one of them was for medical bills. And so that's admirable in a roundabout way. It's like Pete Fredenberg, and the former UMHB head coach, had a national title stripped because he let players use a car that nobody was using. Not theirs, not a Lamborghini, not any. Like, hey, you need to go to HEB. You can have this junker car, and you can go get your groceries. And that's basically what he did, and he lost a national title because of it. So when I talk about college athletics and all that, make no mistake, as I said a few minutes ago, it's on all parties to improve the college athletics experience, and that's just ridiculous that a guy can't bum a car for 5 minutes to get groceries. Like, that's insane. Medical bills helping out with that. I know there's obviously people that would abuse that, but that's admirable in a way, even though it was against the rules. But the stuff of like the COVID break and not being able to have visits and having full-blown freaking visits.
Like Herm
Edwards, come on, dude. Like, that's just stupid. That's just stupid. There's no excuse, and that's not one of those you can go, well, you're just helping out somebody in need. No, you're not. You're not paying medical bills. You're not getting them groceries. You're just whining and dining to get a recruit. And that's where there's no excuse for breaking those rules.
Well, especially since that would be, especially then, a really difficult thing to hide. And we saw how quickly Arizona State did, because if there were more than 5 people in a room at any time during 2020, half the world's like, what's going on here? Who's this guy? Why is the coach talking to him? Why are they,
18 violations categorized as level 1, alleged on 9 separate weekends from July to November 2020 during the dead period because of COVID. The football program, including Brian Niedermeyer, former assistant, and Bethany Gunn, director of recruiting, funded over $12,000 in impermissible inducements and unofficial visit expenses for 6 prospective student athletes and their family members and individuals associated with the prospective student athletes to the Knoxville area. That's just stupid. That's stupid, and you deserve to get busted for being stupid.
Nail salon treatments and a trip on the Tennessee River on a student athlete's
That's the same thing as medical bills, right?
Yeah.
So Paul, Jeremy Pruitt was at Florida State.
Yeah.
His wife, according to Florida on the chat room, worked in FSU compliance. They've been digging into her?
I don't know. It's just, there were...
It's another program that if they were, it's not mattering very much.
There were a lot of, when he left, there were a lot of rumors about him. And I didn't want to get, because it was one of those things that he left and no one was really that upset about it, especially given the fact that at that time his star was super on the rise.
Sounds like an average day in the SEC, D-Wees.
Yeah, we want to pretend like it's not. We're kidding ourselves, but yeah, basically. That's why all this NIL stuff is just more allowing it to be just out in the open, that if somebody needs help with a car, hey, we'll hook you up with the local dealership, and shoot, you might have a better car than when you arrived. Or, medical bills, obviously finding ways to be able to help out with those. Again, I can appreciate that. Who couldn't? But, that's what was going on, and it's now, it was all in the dark, and now it's just all out in the light, and it's not nearly – it's not an issue. It's not an issue whatsoever, just so long as the schools aren't attached to it. The collectives just have to pay the medical bills and help out with the car and do all of those things.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's weird. It's weird that we even hear these stories now. I mean, it was before NIL happened, but 2 years ago, we all knew it was coming down the pike.
Yeah.
And, COVID happened, so it slowed the roll a little bit, but
we
still
did
happened.
hear about the Arizona State having unofficial visits, and they weren't supposed to, and that's what's gotten them kind of sideways. By the way, here's some text.
So does anything ultimately happen?
To Tennessee? I mean,
he'll get a show cause.
But I don't think anything – look, if you're – right, Tennessee might get, something for it, but the athletic director who's there is gone too. So –
and there's the fine line.
And that's the other thing that's happening is now that this is out, the onus is on the NCAA to punish it because one of the new guidances is get it done while
Before
the people are still there and not 5 years later when everyone's gone and fired.
I think that's probably that philosophy is what really helped Baylor quite a bit.
What?
With a lot of what was discussed about the scandal had nothing to do with the NCAA having any kind of jurisdiction. At the same time, I think a fact that everything was cleaned out in whatever ways. I think probably also if they wanted to just throw something out there, I think they also gave them credit for that as well.
Yeah, I mean, they took so long that it was like 5 years after the fact, and there was nobody on campus save for like two guys who were even sniffing the roster at that point when all of what was alleged to go down went down. So this is, I guess, Gunn got interviewed in January 2021, so about 16, 18 months ago or whatever. So it's relatively new, but I mean, this will be curious just because I don't think, obviously, they're getting the death penalty or anything insane like that. That's not what this is, and it's going to be just kind of fascinating to see what this revamped NCAA actually does or can do or tries to do, and then how Tennessee responds. Because this is going to be one of the first kind of tests, right, of what this new landscape with what all is bubbling and what all is going on. This is going to be one of the first, I guess, kind of, I don't know, I'd call this high-profile case, but I guess it's a case we're talking about, and that's out there today that a lot of people are talking about. So I'll be very curious to see how the NCAA takes this on.
From Stubby 1085, we must break for a guest coming around the corner. You can't, can you? Come on, players have always been getting paid. If money it's been money just behind the scenes. Some schools have been hit and some have not. Mack Brown earlier this week mentioned that
part of the frustration.
Mack Brown mentioned earlier this week that when teams were cheating, at least you could kind of almost threaten them with the NCAA, and now that's not even there. And Mack, when he was at Texas, probably was one, and along with UT, that didn't like other teams winning. And, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? And sometimes accused teams of doing that weren't, along with other schools that don't like the little cute pop-up stories in college athletics.
Was UNC Academics the straw that broke the camel's back?
It was.
Yeah.
As far as it was like not being afraid of the NCAA anymore?
Yeah. 805, the area code 304, this monopoly that is being built. Will people stop watching college football? We discussed that a little bit earlier with Bill Hancock's comment. People wanted a playoff. That will give all conference winners a playoff opportunity. So what if they say they cannot compete for a power conference? That's what we're talking about. Yeah, thank you, the 304. We appreciate that.
Answer is we don't know, but there are people in position of power like Bill Hancock, the chief executive of the College Football Playoff Committee, that basically said in so many words that even if your team's not involved, if you're a college football fan, you'll still watch and you're not going anywhere. I don't believe that. I do think that if you were to suddenly tell the Baylors, the TCUs, the West Virginias, and maybe I'm not correct on, maybe West Virginia, they have such crazy fandom, they would be diehards of whatever the new thing is. Maybe Baylor fans would be too. But I think if you were to, without even having to say it, you were just to basically set up a system where they know there's no chance in hell of cracking. Funny to say that on the day that Vince McMahon news breaks, no chance in hell. But no chance in hell they have a chance of breaking through, then damn right people are going to lose some interest. I mean, what are you going to keep showing up for other than school pride? There will be people that do that, but there's going to be a lot of casual fans or just people that have over the years become fans of the program that you don't have a shot at the big championship, then what's kind of the whole point of the fandom?
I am losing, perhaps because when you get older, there's certain things that you start to maybe watch that you didn't before, or perhaps just because I am not watching nearly as much, and I do this for a living as a sportscaster. I watch a bunch, but I don't watch maybe 30% of what I used to watch when it comes to even pro sports or whatever. So, yeah, you can lose fans. You can lose people watching. They can get disinterested over many different reasons.
I don't watch baseball nearly as much as I used to. And that was my first love growing up, but I just think the product hasn't been handled very well, and there's, I've lost interest. So, yeah, I think if you take away a big element of what gets people excited, even if it's just a dream in their heads that Vanderbilt's got a chance to go win a national title, it doesn't always have to be national title or bust. It can be.
They can in baseball.
Yeah, they can in baseball, but, if you're to suddenly tell them that they've got no chance in any sport to be a part of it, then, yeah, I think there's going to be more fans that lose interest. Now, what's going to be interesting is how do they do that with this various sports? Is this just a football thing? Or is this a football basketball thing? Or is this a football basketball everything?
Jeff Goodman reported the other day that he's heard that Greg Sankey, is kind of in favor of wrecking the basketball tournament as well.
There you go.
And so, whether that comes to pass or not, that's the best thing they've got going.
Okay. They might be able to make – we got to go, right? They might be able to make some kind of an argument over national champion in football, even if it's only half of what the former field was. That will not, if it's just two leagues, be the national champion in basketball.
No,
that will absolutely not be.
It's not going to be in football either.
I don't care what kind of tournament they put on. That would not be a national champion.
Area code 512, they're never going to be able to create the 40-50 team Super League we've been hearing after poaching whoever they want without getting rid of underperforming teams they don't want that are right now inclusive. Like the English Premier League, I guess. A few teams can work their way up while others can take a step down. Also, Paul Bloss, who joined us a week ago from the British Open, the Open Championship. He's now in Galway, Ireland. He heard someone say Baylor. I said yes. He introduced himself as a Tennessee fan from Nashville. And we had a great conversation. We come back. He wrote a column today about Colorado, the options that might be in front of them. Sean Keller from the Denver Post next on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. All right, PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you a lot of ways. He can help you if you are one out of every 3 men who have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, sleep habits, body fat, your energy, your focus, and yes, your sex drive. If it's not what it was, if you are having problems with ED, you aren't the only one. Look at all the television today and how many of the commercials about this or that pill you can take. And then you could also just get your testosterone increased, and Dr. Kent Petty can help you with that. PettyClinicalOT.com. Contact them on the website, email and phone number. Tell him I sent you, and he'll set you up to get your blood work. An appointment to get your blood work, and he'll take care of that cost. Then get the results, and if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program to increase it, and you can become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. PettyClinicalOT.com. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Sausage wrap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's summertime, there's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do, and Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon-wrapped filet. And, of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, behind the bank.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
He's a columnist with the Denver Post. Sean Keller joins us, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. We appreciate his time. He wrote a column, a suggestion, a nudge, Colorado, with what's going on. Sean, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. When you heard about USC and UCLA leaving, did you think this was imminent, that Colorado might be involved in going back somewhere, or what were your thoughts?
I think everything's on the table when that happens, isn't it? We got sort of desensitized, I guess, for it with what happened with OU in Texas a year ago at this time, where that's the one that made everybody stand up and go, what? But I guess if I'm a child of the Big Eight. I've been either covered or been a part of the Big 12 most of the last 25 years, off and on in print. So that saga, nothing surprises you when you watch what happened with the Big Eight in the Southwest Conference, obviously. But you see leagues like the Big Ten and Pac-12/10, as you know, are different. They take their history probably too seriously, for lack of a better word, in those relationships and those traditions, I say in air quotes. So to see USC leave, given that they floated that of being like, hey, we're the Notre Dame of the West, maybe we need to do what we want. They put those feelers out before the pandemic, But to see the two of them go in tandem and to the Big Ten, where your nearest geographic partner would be 1,500 miles and 6 states away, I think that was more shocking than what OU and Texas did, just given their respective histories out west. Yeah, so when that happens, everything's on the table. Nothing would shock me anymore. So why not go back? Why not even consider it? And clearly I'm in that camp.
Sean, I guess one of the questions overall that Colorado has to ask itself is, what in these last 10 years has the Pac-12 benefited them?
Yep, that's exactly right. And they'll say academically, they'll say financially, But we did a series on this during the pandemic on the 10-year anniversary of, you guys remember the chaos of a decade ago, as do I. I was in the Iowa and Nebraska side of it, and it was bonkers. I'm watching CU leave the Big 12 then was bonkers. Watching the split of all those ex-Patriot schools was bonkers. But they were promised more money. They were promised a network on par with the Big Ten network. They were promised academics on par with what the Big Ten was doing. And everything was supposed to be an upgrade. And other than a little money early on, other than the money, it was kind of like a bad property deal. They got a lot of money up front, and then it just started waning. The returns on those 10 years got worse and worse and lower as it went along. So what did it do for them? It got them in front of a lot more of their alumni. I'm sure you guys know, and I've come to learn since working in this market, that CU is essentially a part of the University of California system in terms of its students and undergrads and its culture, as much as it is a part of the old Big 8 and the old Big 12, obviously. But boy, beyond that, other than academic prestige, which I also say in air quotes, and the faculty pushing that and getting in front of boosters, that's about it. Because for any other sport, I can't see, including especially the two major ones in football and men's basketball, I can't see where it's done them a lick of good. Not one.
Sean, one of the things a year ago when the latest, of course, as you mentioned, brought up in Texas and Oklahoma prior to the USC-UCLA, is when that happened, we got the feeling, and not just because we do a talk show, but it just kind of seemed like the Pac-12 and their members were kind of like scoffing. We're not looking at you. And of course, it's interesting how the tables turned. Did you sense that as well? And do you sense now, and I know there's some Pac-12 schools that think the Big 12 is garbage, I mean, for whatever reason, politically, religious, academic, whatever. Did you get that impression as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, it's the community college conference. And I say that as a child of the Big 8 who, full disclosure, is a Northwestern Big 10 alum. So, hey, I've swam with all sharks. I've seen the water in both ponds, which is also shocking to me that the Big Ten would, given its long-standing, you're our West Coast cousins partnership with, the Rose Bowl and the Pac-12, that they just openly kneecapped them like that, which, to be fair, it was. Look, let's be honest about what this is, too, and I'm sure you guys have talked about this. Television is driving this train. Mm-hmm. Basically, ESPN got the SEC rights en masse, and got total control. What can we do to make this more appealing? Oh, well, these brands, what football brands are out there? There's Notre Dame, there's Texas, there's OU. Oh, you think Texas and OU would leave? Well, let's see. There we go. Okay, ESPN just upped their package something fierce. We've got bargaining coming up. The Big Ten's got to go back and redo their TV deals for whatever, a 5 to 10 year span. Gee, what would work now? Notre Dame. Well, we've tried that for 120 years. They've never built the girl we've been chasing for a century. The love affair that's never requited. She'll never say yes. Okay, what's our next best option? Well, we wanted Texas forever, and they did. The Big Ten always has had Texas on the radar for a lot of reasons. Well, they're taken. Oh, what's our next best bet? Well, SC may go independent. They've floated that, and Mike Bone, their AD, says they'll try anything. And here we go. Fox went, oh, well, how about this? We can be, we're in LA. We'll get this to work out. Your deal will be better. We'll get most of your rights moving forward, and our money will go up if we can get the Big Ten network in the second biggest TV market. We can't get into Dallas-Fort Worth, but hey, we can get into LA, even better from a penetration standpoint than Rutgers got you into New York or Maryland got you into DC. How does that sound? Everybody went, yep, good. And nobody thought, wait a minute, what is this going to cost? Nope, good, great. And away they went. So, it's nothing. Again, it goes back to nothing. Everything's on the table, isn't it? It just feels like nothing shocks me anymore. Well, we're just gonna draw things up the way that a TV executive would draw things up, and just take logic out of the equation.
Sean, what do you think that the most reasonable end game is, given the fact you just mentioned LA is gone? You can't replace that. And, comparative, Rutgers into New York, Maryland into DC, just like Cal and Stanford into San Francisco, and probably CU into Denver a little bit. Those things, the Arizona schools into Phoenix, might be a little overestimated when it comes to concentrated fan enthusiasm in pro sports market. So is the best thing for schools like Colorado, Utah, to dive into a league that is driven by college sports markets, more or less?
I think it can't hurt. I can't speak for Salt Lake City as much as I can for here now, being here for 4 years, watching it from afar and then being here up close. The Buffs have kind of slid down that pecking order quite a bit. And having lived primarily in Big 12/Big 8 and Big 10 markets most of my professional career before moving here, it's very different. College basketball has no presence in Denver, which would shock you given how good and is more impressive and should impress people given how good Colorado and Colorado State are respectively and their coaches, because this is a terrible college basketball market. And it's been a pretty good college football market, but not the last decade. I think it can't hurt. I think it can't hurt to the point that I raised in the column as well. Another thing going for the Big 12, and even though I kind of raised my eyebrows at it at the time when West Virginia came aboard, because obviously geographically that's not quite the wacky wild card that the Big 10 just did. But yeah, it's not Big 8 country, let's be frank, or as Southwest country. But I understood, someone explained to me later, it was a television decision. I got to know Chuck Neinas, obviously, who helped put that together. And he said, you know how many TV sets are on the East Coast and how many people want to watch games at 5 o'clock Central and 4 o'clock Mountain. And suddenly the light bulb went on where, okay, I get that now. And the latest expansion has only enhanced that. So I think, given that CU has tried 10 years of basically being, off in a corner where being in the Pac-12 is further, you feel like a flyover area anyway in the Mountain Time Zone collegiately, but instead of feeling more a part of the national scene, you basically pigeonholed yourself further with a Pac-12 network that got no distribution and none of those promises. I mean, it was just a scam on Larry Scott's part. Let's be real about what that was. Awful stuff. Presidents who made terrible decisions and a commissioner who basically took the money and ran. That's how that story will be written. It's not quite a Ponzi scheme, but it's awfully close with what it did. And that's some of the discontent that UCLA and USC had too, was they looked at this and went, we could do way better than this. And I think Oregon and Washington probably feel the same. So I think it can't hurt you to look east and look south and look at a conference, unlike the Pac-12, that is thinking national. That is not just thinking provincial. You've got a provincial interest, but if you've got a national package and a national way to reach out to people, I don't see where that's going to hurt, especially when you already have a school with a lot of California kids. From a recruiting standpoint, someone wiser than I who's lived here a lot longer said, CU used to sell California kids on a league they never got to see and a campus they never got to see, and Texas kids on the mountains and Louisiana kids on the mountains and stuff that was unusual. It wasn't unusual anymore. They were seeing it all the time in the Pac-12. So I think maybe a little distance from that can't hurt them in any way, because being in the Pac-12, to you guys' point, for the last decade, from a football competitive standpoint, sure as heck hasn't helped.
Sean, as you said, everything's on the table, and it's kind of hard to figure out what's what all the time, which is everything that's flying around. But there has been the at least the mention floated of, in order to keep Washington and Oregon happy as the two top brands, although, you think that they'd be in the Big Ten by now, although Notre Dame, like there's this whole thing. But if Washington and Oregon were to get some unequal revenue sharing to stick around and keep this bad boy intact, how do you think Colorado and others would feel about that?
I think they publicly say we are united and in perfect lockstep with continuing our partnerships, and privately some of those ADs and coaches would hate it, even though they know that's going to be part of the game, because they hated it in the Big 12.
Right.
That was always one of the big political reasons for that that shakeup a decade ago, was everyone got tired of Texas and Oklahoma, and especially Texas, dictating terms. That's why when they go to the SEC, that's going to be fascinating to watch from afar. Because, as you guys know, I don't think Nick Saban and anybody at Bama or Florida or Georgia is going to give a rat's patootie what Texas wants or cares about to that point. So, yeah, it's going to be a different, and I'd say a more uncomfortable political situation, because let's also be real. If the Big Ten would change its mind, or the network would tell the Big Ten that this is in your financial interest, because we're getting the line now, the insiders in Pac-12 say, well, they're sticking around because, it's so expensive to fly to the Northwest, and it's cost prohibitive relative to what the Seattle market gives you, and Portland is too small. Yeah, okay, fine. Yes. But at some point, you've got to find a way to make UCLA and USC more regionally cohesive in some kind of arrangement there. And that's not with Nebraska and Iowa. I'm sorry. I'm from there. That it doesn't, different culture there. Doesn't quite fly. It does, but it's expensive to fly there. So at some point, you'd have to think that they're going to come around, or ESPN says, you know what, the ACC network could use some different branding, and Notre Dame isn't going to play ball the way we like. And if we, and if South Carolina doesn't want, it's going to keep fighting to keep Clemson out of the SEC, maybe the ACC network needs to go national and pick up the San Diego and the Portland and the Seattle markets. Again, somebody's going to do that, aren't they? I mean, we're teetering towards this where geography no longer matters for anything, and we're teetering towards, and let's not, I don't want to make this a soccer conversation necessarily, but watch the Premier League, watch what happens there, because that's the closest thing to a North American sport, is the colleges with European soccer, where there's such financial inequity. There's no caps. There's no rules. There's no limitations. Ultimately, I think my fear is that there's going to be a split of the Power Five into a Premier League kind of thing, where here's 40 teams that have the biggest NIL pots or the best TV brands that get divided by one of those ways. And another 25 to 30 that used to be born into a lot of good money, your Oregon State, your Purdue's, maybe even your Northwesterns, are told, good luck to you, it's been great. And that middle class is going to go away. That's my fear, and I worry that could be in the next 15 years where we're going to.
Yeah, and by the way, Sean, we had Chuck Neinas on today's show, and of course he gave us a lot of his feedback and opinion, and he's totally against what you just mentioned, and I think I am, and not everybody is. The ones who know they got a seat, they're
Alabama
fine.
fan, yeah, Alabama fan doesn't care.
Texas are all for it.
They're fine.
Premier League.
So if you were to poll, in your opinion, Colorado fans, not the administration, or maybe you can even add, what would they want to do if, in fact, they have an opportunity, if, in fact, whatever you see or read or hear, and we are kind of on as well, what would they want to do if, in fact, the Big 12 said, come on?
Come back. This is the fascinating part. You guys are going to love this. I would say the fan base would be 60-40 Big 12, and maybe even higher. They feel burned. They were duped. They feel duped by the Pac-12. Like this, they feel like redheaded mountain step cousins. It's not been good. The fans don't like the Pac-12. They don't care about Utah. It's been great for Utah. They've run it up CU's backside. They've turned into a really nice program. They're probably one of the next four biggest brands in terms of football quality in the Pac-12. It's been the opposite of the effect that it had on the Buffs. But here's the kicker. I think the administration is 70-30 Pac-12. They want the money, they want the comfort, they want the politics, they want the caviar, and they want, they want the prestige. Air quotes again. They want that prestige. The Big 12, to the administration at CU, is a JUCO league. They don't want to be in that. And the fans absolutely do, given those. Now, the one thing they would both agree on, and, no offense to anyone in Big 12 country, they'd understand, is if the Big 10 called them, Oh, done deal.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah. But
they
would
would
understand that.
Any team that got a call from them or the SEC,
Hey, Baylor gets a call.
Now
Like,
it's just it feels like a foregone lottery ticket that if you get one of those big two, it's like, yeah, okay, Iowa State, whoever's like, oh, yeah, I get it. I suck.
Absolutely.
But yeah, but there's a lot. See, that's the division. And what you have there in the Big Ten, Illinois is one of the most fractured fan bases and fractured administrations in the Big Ten, which is one of the reasons they can never get football straight, from a distance. Trust me. That's one of the reasons. CU is becoming that. Colorado is becoming that, where your fans want this group of vote donors want this group of the administration want this. The majority of fans would love to go back to the Big 12 culturally, historically, especially fans over 35, 40, who remember and go all the way back to the Big 8 days. But your biggest donors who aren't in the greater Denver, greater Boulder area are in California. That's a tricky balance there, and they haven't found it. They just haven't. And so you get stuck, and then if you stay where you are, you get disinterested fans and bad coaches. They've got a rough schedule this year, guys. It's going to be got TCU right out of the chute.
Yep.
That if they don't win that one in the home opener, just for fun, pull up Colorado's schedule. You find me 4 wins there, and I'll buy you a Whataburger.
Well, the reason they don't have one that's automatic, and Sean, I'm a lifelong Nebraska fan, and believe me, it's been painful for them too. They don't have Scott Frost to beat in the last minute of the game like they did. God,
and you know what? And as a Western Iowa native who grew up with a lot of Nebraska fans, has many friends who are big red types, and I imagine you'd say this too. It has been great. Now, here's the difference of their marriage to the Big Ten. Is it's been financially and exposure, everything that we're promised, right? They've gotten the money eventually. They've gotten that kind of time, but it has not helped the football.
No.
They're without an identity. They're just Purdue West. They're just nothing.
Yeah.
They have a cultural issue. That's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
And I could give you 6 hours of radio on what happened in Nebraska football
in
the last 25 years. But I would contend too that both those programs and teams need each other right now, and they're not going to find each other because Nebraska also would be crazy to say, it's like, we'll go back to the Big 12. And I go, no, they want the money, and they're going to keep the money and say, we're just going to keep recruiting Ohio and Michigan and getting our brains beat in by the Buckeyes, Wolverines, and no one will care. So, they both miss each other. I think you're a Big Red fan, and I think some Big Red fans would even admit that to this day.
Oh, yeah, no question. Sean, hey, appreciate it. Sean Keeler, Denver Post. Appreciate your column. We'll be in touch. We'll see what happens here. Who knows over the next few days, maybe even weeks, that something pops, and we'll get you back on for your opinion. Thank you.
There you go. Expect the unexpected. Take care, guys. Thanks.
Sean Keeler, the Denver Post, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Yeah, it was good stuff there. Good to get the Colorado perspective, and I will agree with him on one thing from my point of view, certainly, is I grew up, Colorado mattered. They mattered a lot.
Yep.
Colorado, Nebraska mattered. Colorado, Oklahoma mattered. Colorado, Texas was a hell of a thing there for a little bit of a stretch there as well. And they have not mattered to me at all, basically, since they went to the Pac-12. Outside of Steven Montez being an El Paso de Valle graduate, and Laviska Shenault, as I mentioned yesterday, former DeSoto wide receiver, and a few others that they had come up. I think Jarek Broussard was there for a minute, but they had a few Texas guys. And outside of that, if it wasn't for me checking their box score basically to see what those guys in particular did for the Earl Campbell Award, I probably could have told you a single thing. Mel Tucker I would have been able to tell you about, but yeah, they don't really have an identity anymore. I mean, and I don't know how I would describe their identity exactly when they were in the Big 8 and the Big 12, but it felt like they had one. I can't really describe what it was, but it felt like that's Colorado, man. And now there's just no juice when you talk about
Bill McCartney had a hell of a run,
heck yeah.
And
won a national title.
You think about the Big 8 coaches, some of the coaches in the Big 8. What McCartney did at Colorado, not that they didn't have a great history. They finished third in 1971 behind great Nebraska and Oklahoma teams. And then he found a way to learn how to beat Nebraska. Won a national championship. They had a little bit of scandal in their rearview mirror as well, but they won the national championship. And then, of course, he moved on, and they're the ones that reached inside Nebraska's competitive soul and stole their heart. in 2001 when they mashed an unbeaten number one ranked team, and they've never been the same.
They had a Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Eric Crouch.
Rashawn Salam.
Rashawn Salam. They had the Cordell Stewart, who was
Michael
a famous
Westbrook.
player. Yes.
Yeah.
But you look at Nebraska, A&M, Colorado, Missouri. None of them. A&M is just starting to they still have to do. None of them are better. A&M is better off.
Okay. So
none of them have been that good since they left.
I'll use this analogy, Smokey. Conference realignment so far has been a little bit like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Everybody's happy to get that golden ticket, but nobody's Charlie Bucket yet. Nobody's won the Chocolate Factory. Everybody who's moved is Augustus Gloop or
Nebraska's a big old blueberry.
They're chocolate, Chocolate River, the big old blueberry. They fall in the golden eggs. I mean, all that stuff. They're there, but
it's great for everything else. I mean, facilities are top notch because of all the money pouring in and the educational side of it and all that. So, I mean, that's why ultimately that security is more, imperative than any 10-win season. Although Nebraska sure wishes they were still winning national titles like they used to. But yeah, I mean, football wise, just looking at it from a pure football perspective, none of the teams that have left for the most part, have been anywhere close to better than where they were previously.
By the way, I may have just stumbled across a perfect movie analogy for Texas. They are definitely Veruca Salt. I want to know now, Daddy.
Yeah, that is going to be fun. I think that's what everybody's most looking forward to from realignment is Texas walking into the room and trying to throw their weight around. But I think Texas is so calculated that they know they're not going to do that. Chris Del Conte is not stupid. If they think for 1 second they're going to go in there with well, we're here to tell y'all what to do. I mean, that's not going to fly, and they know that, and they're gonna abide and do what they have to do. And then when there comes a time, they will probably make a move in some way or another. And you can't definitely take your eye off of them. But they're well aware, I think, that they're not going to go walking in and feel like they're looking down on everybody the way they do right now in the Big 12 outside of Oklahoma. But the Colorado schedule, they open with TCU on a Friday. In Fort Worth, or no, that's at home in Boulder. That'll be interesting because we don't know much about TCU. I mean, what do we really know? We know where players are. We know where coaches are. But do we really know how many of these we know Alabama's going to be really good. We know Georgia's going to be really good. But, we can't even really figure out how good the Big 12 is going to be. And, we think Baylor will be good. We think Texas will be good. We think Oklahoma will be good. But do we really know that? I don't think we do. So TCU, that's going to be a really interesting game just to see the Dykes era kick off there in Boulder. They're at Air Force in week 2, at Minnesota in week 3, and then they start the pack schedule with UCLA, at Arizona, Cal at home, at Oregon State, Arizona State, Oregon at home, and then their last month, though, Oregon at home, at Southern Cal, at Washington, and Utah at home. So that could be bowl cutting season one way or the other for them at that point if they get there.
And Washington's one of their toss-up games.
Yeah, well, and we don't know where they're going to be this year.
Yeah, we don't know
either.
exactly.
I want to do something here. We have Paul's top 5. You want to do one more segment before you break?
Let's take a break, yes.
Let's break here, and I want to come back with a change. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, a commander change. I want to show you a couple of pictures of a ceremony I was at and also discuss much more. There's still plenty to get to. And by the way, we do have a note on Paul's top 5 to pass along from what was a part of the replay discussion as well. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Right now through today, and they close their doors at 6. They're open tomorrow, first thing in the morning, and then to the early afternoon. Waco Custom Marketplace. Top sirloin steak, $5.75 a pound. I love the bone and ribeyes. I've told you about the butcher shop. Bacon wrapped fillets that are this thick. They're just delicious. Prime rib. You want it, they have it. New York strip. T-bone, porterhouse, yes. The top sirloin steak is $5.75 a pound right now. That's a great deal. And a lot of times when I do that, I'll do stir fry with that. Beef short ribs, $4.99 a pound. Bone-in pork chops for $2.25 a pound. This is at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Chicken thighs, $2.75 a pound. Bacon ends in pieces, $2.75 a pound. And regular piggy sticks are $2.99 per pound. And right now, they also have that bakery open all the time, fresh baked kolaches and bread every single day, and what you would like when you need the necessities up and down the 2 or 3 aisles they have when you walk in the door. Cold beer and wine. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy old world pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. This is a great time for your business.
Exactly. And one other thing we do that a lot of people don't know is we buy jewelry, heirloom pieces, gold, silver bars, gold bullion, watches, anything you may have that you want to. If you don't want to use it and remake something like I did in a state yesterday and I looked at 35 pieces, well, they're probably going to sell me back 30 because it's something they're not going to wear, nothing to use. So if you're looking to get a few bucks or to sell something or something you just don't wear anymore, I make my wife go through her jewelry box about every 6 to 8 months, and the things that she doesn't wear on a daily basis, this sounds horrible, but I take away from her and then I'll put in my estate counter, but then that gives me the chance to rebuy her something new moving forward. Instead of looking down 20 years down the road and you have 300 pieces of jewelry, it's something to refresh and make her buy something new along the way.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Looks like a busted play here. Williams in trouble, and he'll just throw it up and picked off. Al Walcott.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We appreciate all of you, the chat room, the text line, those who don't even do that but watch us or listen to us. And sometimes you contact us on what we do, Twitter, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. And thank you as our growth of the YouTube channel continues to soar. And a lot of it is because of the coverage and what's going on with college athletics and college football. All right, we love our sponsors. You know that from the very beginning. We had 13 legacy sponsors, and one that also has been a part of what we've done for 2.5 years is the U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company. Here is a picture of Captain Dominique Williams with her commanding officer as she is given kind of a thank you as she today turned over the commanding officer of the Waco Recruiting Company, and I'll show you in a minute who to who. Now, she was there, family members there. It was a fantastic ceremony inside the presidential suite at McLean Stadium, and that's one of those that she'll always have Waco wherever else she goes. Now, Captain Kai Kizzy, you see him right there. There is Dominique handing the flag over to a sergeant who is about to then, in turn, of course, she gives it to her commanding officer, who then gives it to Captain Kai Kizzy. He now is the commander of the U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company. There were the people who are there that worked and have been recruited, who are fighting and also serving our country. It was a really, really cool ceremony. The backdrop was amazing as well.
Yeah.
Is he the one on the left or the right? Kizzy.
Kizzy's on the left.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. And just, coming back from Hawaii, Honolulu, there's a bunch of military bases there. Got to interact with some military people. Hawaii's a very friendly place. You just wind up talking to people. But that's cool to come back and see with military people on our plane coming back. It's really cool. And for Captain Kizzy, best of luck. Had
a chance to visit with him a little bit after the ceremony. It just seems like a tremendous. His father's there, military. A lot of family member there, military as well.
Go get some of those 5 stars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get on that recruiting trail.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so Captain Kai Kizzy, welcome. And also Dominique Williams, let me tell you something. You have been a breath of fresh air to deal with, to watch. You went, and as they mentioned, she started this into the teeth of COVID. Remind you of another story? What we do into the teeth of COVID and dealt with the freeze, the ice storm in the early part of 2021, and she has been fantastic. A great smile, great personality, and we will miss her, but also welcome Captain Kizzy to Waco, Texas, and Captain Kizzy, look forward to working with you as well. All right, a couple of notes. Remember yesterday we talked about the transfer portal having different dates that they want to look at windows, and Mike George, who watches us all the time, great Baylor fan, according to what I read, or at least what he was understanding, and I may have said this yesterday, so you guys tell me if we did, and I just going brain lock. The first window is a 45-day period after the national championship selection of whoever the 4 teams are. And then the last one in May, which is May 1st has always been kind of a date, is after, I guess, what will be the last of anything spring drills and spring practices. So those 2 windows do make sense. I'm not sure I agree with all of what they're going to do with basically an open border, so to speak, when it comes to the transfer portal, but that remains to be seen.
They just can't fight it anymore. They can't do. I mean, do they win into these? Does somebody walk into one of these, arbitration hearings and wind up not being able to transfer where they want to go after their first one?
Well, that's not so much about the transfer. That's about the windows.
Yeah, but like
the opportunity to go in and out.
Yeah, so
but I know what you mean.
But yeah, I mean that's the other part of this rule, that they throw the windows on there and then pull out all the other restrictions, so the coaches get one thing they want and one thing that they don't really. But or most of them, they might be split on that. But nobody loses those appeals right now, so why fight them?
Yeah, I mean, there's not even need for appeals now. I mean, there's going to be no. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I'm sure you have to file paperwork or something, but there's no appeal because there's no rule as far as a limitation on transfers. But I do think the windows make sense. Although when I do hear the term transfer windows, and I've heard the term relegation as it pertains to what the future looks like and all that. And I've seen so many college football writers over the years on podcasts or stories talk about the comparison with the Premier League and all of that. I don't know. I'm not a big soccer fan. I understand the appeal of Premier League and Champions League and all that comes with that, and how big business and big sports that is. And I understand, too, the comparisons with the younger athletes and how that works overseas in soccer versus how that works here in the States, where, yes, if you're 17 years old, I mean, you could be tell me if I'm wrong, but you could basically be insuring your future and signing for millions of pounds or whatever the monetary, value is wherever you're signing up, but to go play for Manchester United, And the thing that's interesting about soccer players is how quickly, in most cases, their careers die out, where you're like in your 30s and you're starting to become an old man, right? But you start off pretty young. And I don't disagree with, that is, you can't compare that to college athletics, but I don't know, like just the full-blown, we're going to be the Premier League and turn college football into that. I don't know how on board I am with that, but that's been swirling for years now, and there's been plenty of proponents who are clearly soccer fans and love the way it works there and want it to work with their other favorite sport, but I don't like the whole exact comparison, but that is a sport that has transfer windows, and I do think college football has been in need of a transfer window. I think, yes, the coaches have had it all basically to themselves, as far as like free reign for decades now at this point, so it's about time to take some things away from them or the universities and all that. But you got to have like some sort of order, like something. And, when there is no window and you can basically just at any moment in time just throw your name in that portal, and the only punishment that might come with that is you're either allowed to go or you might have to sit a year, which is what the rules were, is if you didn't do it in by a date, then you lost your year to play immediately.
Yeah, that's even been dissolved.
But
basically.
that was basically bogus, so that meant nothing. So I do like having a couple of windows just so you have an idea of who the hell's on your team.
Yeah.
It got so ridiculous that in theory, you could lose a dude the week before the season starts who's an important player for you. It wasn't often or ever that happened, but were we going to head that way? Yeah, absolutely, with no sort of dates established. So I like this rule.
253, hello again from Seattle. Not sure if you have discussed it, but what do you think about the promotion relegation idea? Here's the problem I have. Let's say I'm not a fan of it. I'm not. So you mean to tell me, let's say how many teams are there, Paul? How many teams would be a part of this? 60, 50, whatever, 39 or 100, doesn't matter. So let's say there's a relegation. And let's say, and I know this is far-fetched, but let's say in 5 years, Nick Saban has finally won his last 3 or 4 or 5 national championships and leaves. And Alabama goes through kind of what they've done in the 80s or whatever, and they go 4-8, and then 2-10. They going to be relegated?
No, I mean, that's not how, And, of course, this is like the relegation system is years and years. They're not going to get –
I know.
Yeah, but I mean, like that –
it's still a pick and choose thing.
The reason that in England you're fine with the relegation system is because you grew up with it. I mean, because you know how that's how it works. If all of a sudden Alabama or LSU or Florida or Oklahoma State got relegated, I don't think people would take it very well because they didn't – it's hard for – there's a reason we haven't completely wrapped our arms around soccer in this country. We don't.
But the same people have been telling us for 30 years, it's coming, baby. It's the highest growing youth sport in America. I heard that 20 years ago.
Look, we only get it a little bit. The metric system makes way more sense than what we use than standard, but we tried that and let it go after a little while. It's just not going to happen.
That's the thing with relegation is Alabama's never going to be one of the lowest placing teams, like no matter what. So it doesn't even matter. They're never going to be at the bottom because guess who's going to be at the bottom? Vanderbilt or whoever. And I know we keep picking on them, but it's just the name that comes to mind.
They've set up the system so they don't fall that far.
Yeah. That's the whole game, Paul. Yeah. You look at all the rules being passed. Mm-hmm. It's all being set up for the benefactors ultimately, which is going to be these. I mean, I don't know. We haven't talked about it at all today. There's this whole movement with Sean Clifford and Kevin Warren, the Big Ten talking player union, or that's the word union was thrown out and then very quickly retracted. I wonder why. And then some word salad of like, no, not really a union yet, but Sean Clifford apparently met with Kevin Warren, had a phone call or representatives and whatever, and there's Kevin Warren now on the record saying that they're exploring, potential partnership with the players, and some will say that a players union is long overdue. Again, they retracted the word union like immediately when that article came out, which is kind of funny. Sean Clifford just posted something. I haven't had the time to read it. For those that don't know, Penn State quarterback, where he clarified some things, says had very positive and open discussions with Coach Franklin, the Penn State AD, Commissioner Warren, about the changing landscape and how those changes are and will continue to impact student athletes. It is important to state my dialogues with my coach, AD, and commissioner were conducted as a student athlete. To characterize my dialogues as being on behalf of a union or as a union member would be inaccurate. So I guess he's got to clear the air so that there's not any, ramifications from it. But that's another direction that we're probably headed, especially when you're going to hear the Big Ten is going to be making $1 billion plus from whatever networks sign up. There's going to be eventually equal distribution, or revenue sharing of some sort, I would think, with the players. Is every league going to be able to do that?
No.
Who can afford to probably do that? The two leagues that we keep talking about. So I say all that to say, well, that's another potential earthquake type of move that would alienate some haves and have-nots right away, but also changes the landscape. And like I'm saying, basically, is all of this is for the benefit of leagues and schools like that. I mean, it's not for the benefit of Lafayette.
Yeah. Roger Dodger makes a good point, where how are you going to regulate a college have a $100 million contract to a lesser payout? It's not happening. So the only way a relegation would work is if you can get colleges to admit that Alabama gets the same amount of money that Oklahoma State gets, that Washington gets, that Rutgers gets. Everybody would get that, and there's no conferences anymore. It's just everyone. That's where
Super League.
That's where relegation would work. But again, they've pretty much told you we're not doing that.
Well, never say never.
Yeah, nothing's off the table. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5. Sick 'em, 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Craig, you kind of mentioned something offhand the other day that, all of this stuff going on realignment-wise, there's a bunch of topics we're not talking about. So I thought I'd throw them out and see if we could just maybe spark some things. But these are the top 5 things we would be talking about in July, if not for the chaos that is now the college football offseason.
And by the way, we're good with it. We're good with the chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
But for right now,
Yeah.
it's entertaining.
Yeah. All right, number 5, recruiting. Now, look, we've talked about some of these things today, but, we're not talking about as much recruiting as we normally would be. We had Grayson on, but normally we'd talk about recruiting, and there's 5 stars out there and 4 stars and visits and all that, but we really, outside of Arch Manning and a couple things about Baylor, we're not really scratching the surface of recruiting right now.
Well, we've mentioned on occasion, like Ohio State has got their 9th 5-star receiver. Miami's had a run. Oklahoma's had a good July. Texas got a 4-star cornerback earlier in the week.
It's in passing. We're not doing.
But it's not like, no, you're right.
Well, I mean, I think, too, that I'm curious to see. I think people will always be interested in recruiting. It's always going to have its avenue. But I think with the transfer portal and things like that, the looser you make those rules, I mean, why am I going to get super excited about a dude that's going to leave in a year potentially? You know what I mean? I mean, that's at least you knew on signing day that unless the guy got in trouble or your coach got in trouble or – whatever, that guy's going to be around for 4 years probably. And, maybe gone in 3 because he had such a great career. But now, like, you sign a quarterback, what assurances do you have that dude's even going to be there a year from then if he doesn't win the job right away, right? So I wonder, I'm not saying it has, but I do wonder how much has kind of taken some of the steam from the hardcore recruiting where everything matters always to where, hey, we lost out on that guy, we'll just go to the transfer portal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Number 4, dark horse teams. Like we haven't had the talk about who are some of the teams that could jump up, like NC State here in the graphic. A lot of buzz around NC State, maybe being able to win the ACC. I'll believe it when I see it, but usually, we'll go through and grab schools from around and talk about like, hey, there's some positive movement forward with this team. Let's talk about them. Haven't done that.
We
Haven't
will
done it at all.
We will actually talk football at some point. We've tried to dip in and out of that a little bit, and hopefully we'll do that here pretty soon.
Yeah, and I think that again, go back to the transfer portal. I think everybody's still kind of wrapped their heads around who's on what team right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody's reading Phil Steele and the internet and trying to figure out, okay, who does North Carolina State have back this year? Who's gone? Who'd they bring in? Who's on the, I think everybody's kind of still waiting through that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we're about at the point now, July 22nd, where it's about getting into, I said when Media Day started, the preseason's, or the off season's over, the preseason's begun, and we are very close to getting into where that preseason means talking actual games and actual teams and what they're going to look like, and I'm looking forward to that, yeah.
Evidence.
Yeah. Number 3, hot seat coaches. Guys who are in make it or break it years, like Brian Harsin, who may need to leave anyway just for his own personal sanity, considering he was part of, and I don't know how justifiable, if it was justifiable, it wasn't a witch hunt, but whatever happened to him in Auburn this offseason, and them trying to get him out, a large faction of people trying to get him out. Mike Norvell's got kind of a make it or break it positive year here. I think he probably gets in there. Yeah, Jeff Collins at Georgia Tech. Yeah, there's a lot of guys.
There's one at the top of the list.
Scott Frost.
Again.
Yeah, Scott Frost is in the hottest of seats, considering he had to change his whole staff, and they renegotiated his contract so that he could just leave after the year. And
yeah, no, it's going to be, the hot seat, I think that there's just obvious candidates you carry over from last year. Scott Frost is one of those, obviously, and we probably mentioned a couple others. But, yeah, there's probably guys we're not even thinking about that are going to get off to a rough start, and then we'll enter the conversation. And I look forward to, the coaching carousel and crazy season. That's just a few months away now at this point. So, yeah, I'm curious to see who's going to be joining those clubs. But there's certainly a couple good candidates on the screen right there. They're definitely a part of that conversation right now.
Number 2, Heisman candidates. Haven't really gotten into this. Look, C.J. Stroud's won. Caleb Williams is one. I'm sure the defending national champion or the defending Heisman Trophy winner, Bryce Young's coming back. He's probably one. Bijan Robinson should probably be one. I'll throw out a dark horse there. Deuce Vaughn.
You didn't mention Caleb Williams, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay, right
there. Yeah, but Deuce Vaughn at Kansas State. That's one. Maybe. Some of those some of the wide receivers that have moved or on their way up. Maybe what's Xavier Worthy or that's another one at Texas. But Jordan Addison, all those guys. We'll see, but haven't really mentioned it. This is a tough one anyway because
we're starting to get these preseason watch lists. We'll start to it kind of gives us a little chance to do that pretty soon. In a month, we will have the preseason polls that come out, which will be pretty much always stock and barrel the way they always are, with the same teams with a few surprises.
Yeah. And number one, CFP candidates. Outside of the obvious ones, have we broken down like maybe who could get in outside of the Alabamas and Ohio States and Clemsons of the world? We haven't really been in that. We've been talking about chaos, and chaos is wonderful, but we're losing some of the nuts and bolts here.
For $1,000, would you put down $1,000 that two of the four semifinalists will be a combination of Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Would you do it with all three teams?
I think I probably would. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on, do I have a few other thousand in the bank account, or is this my last 1,000? That would determine whether I want to go with all three, but I'd still feel pretty good about that given where we are sitting right now. But, yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about those things, but the good news about that, Paul, is we're not running on empty before August even hits, because I would imagine there probably are some who have already done all of these things just to get the summer to pass by, and they're going to have to, I guess, redo them again in a couple of weeks or, whatever, or find some new material. But, yeah, we got all these things to talk about, and that's even if we get a chance to. I mean, part of the reason why we haven't is because USC and UCLA decided to just up out of nowhere move to the Big Ten, and that threw everything summer news cycle for a complete loop. So it's been unpredictable and yet in some ways predictable, but it's definitely been a year where college football has not stopped, even if there has been an offseason. It has been nonstop, from the coaching carousel and Lincoln Riley setting that on fire before the year even ended, to eventually, flowing into signing days and transfer portal stuff, and then spring ball, and then realignment and more transfer stuff and legislation. And now here we are. And we actually are going to see some games soon. Still a little bit of a wait, but I think there will be enough realignment news and other news, I'm sure, to carry us over here these next few weeks.
Well, there's a bunch that we haven't yet dug into, but you know what? A matter of time. The schedule will not just force us, but we want to.
Right there, that slate of players and programs, there's a ton of interesting storylines right there alone, and that's just a smidgen. Now, that would be a quarter, basically, there's 7 right there, so that'd be, almost a quarter, a fifth of y'all's future Super League is right there, although Dave Aranda wouldn't be a part of it, I guess, and Utah may or may not be a part of that, I guess, but, yeah, the others would be a part of that, but that's just a smidgen of the actual college football real leagues that are out there.
Oh, my goodness, what a week, huh? Emery Winter, he came from start to finish this week. Jack McKenzie's pulling a Paul, and then also Levi left. He's just got an attitude today.
Listen, you got an extra 3 days on your vacation because Garrett and Jack and I were in here.
Actually, I didn't get a vacation because you guys weren't on anyway. Also, Garrett Ross, thank you. How's your son today? Great. Enjoyed yesterday?
Oh, yeah.
Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, have a great weekend. Thank you, our sponsors, you, the audience and viewers. We love what we do, and we love you for being here every day on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Have a great weekend.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.